when a parent sends their kid to a public high school, they're not dealing with an abortion.
Right.
They're dealing with critical race theory.
Mm-hmm.
They're dealing with a woke agenda.
Right.
You know, like pronouns kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They're dealing with trans and LGBTQ stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, on a daily basis, in their face, it's literally being shoved down their throats. And so those are the issues that I hit, like family issues. Because there was like, worship is more than just singing on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I always tell people, but if you can't sing on Sunday when you're looking at the back of somebody's head in a place where everybody's exactly like you, then you're not worshiping the rest of the week.
You think the actual singing has to happen for it to be worship?
Our Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
I always tell people that. I say it straight up from the pulpit. I'm like, they are literally the worst.
Yeah.
And here they are, like, on the national stage, and it's like...
Right, it's kind of scary. So how do you account for, then, so many, use the word Christian loosely, because I'll hear what your thoughts are on this, that say that there's no way they're voting for Trump, and they're definitely voting Democrat?
With them, it's all words, and so you have to like sift through the words,
right?
Because they want to use language to manipulate you,
right?
And when they know that language doesn't manipulate you, when somebody says like, "You just hate me," I'm like, prove it,
right?
That's what I'll say.
But what if they said that?
You put it back on. How have I hated you?
Yeah, and what if they say, by not accepting me because this is truly who I am, and you're not accepting me?
Accepting you? How have I not accepted you?
Okay. Because you don't agree with my lifestyle.
Agreeing and accepting is not the same thing.
Okay.
You show me where I haven't accepted you, and I'll show you 100 instances where I have accepted you.
Okay. Hi, thanks for listening to this episode of the Why Can't We Talk About That podcast. You being here makes me happy. Today's conversation is pretty awesome, in the same way that they all are pretty awesome. But the main difference between this and all the other episodes is that Chuck Musselwhite is my guest. Chuck is currently the pastor of Hope Chapel, but my relationship with him goes back much farther than that. When I first became a Christian, back in 2001, the first church we started attending was Calvary Chapel, and Chuck just happened to be the associate pastor at that time. Over the few years that my family attended that church, I would get to know Chuck a little better, mostly from playing on the recreational basketball team with him. Go Court Hogs! After God called him to plant his own church in a different city, we lost touch for many years, other than just seeing each other every once in a while around town. So it was a lot of fun to catch up and hear Chuck's views on things. Oh, and one more thing. One of the topics we discuss, since it was a hot topic current event at the time, was the controversial Olympic boxing event where the story was that a trans woman, meaning biologically male, was competing against and beating the tar out of the women boxers. At the time, there was a lot that was unknown about that story, so some of the things that we say in that part of the discussion are not factually accurate. It's a very fascinating story though, so if you haven't looked into it, I suggest that you do. Enjoy the conversation.
His Q&A, and next thing you know, you just see his cat start walking all over it. And it's gotten so comfortable, like where he'll just pet it, and people are just like go crazy over it.
That's so cool, and they love the cat, right?
Oh yeah,
loves the cat.
Totally, yeah. So
people either love cats or hate cats.
I am not an animal person
At all? Not even a dog guy?
Well, we have a Labrador, and she drives me nuts.
Okay. Is that more because your kids wanted a dog?
Yeah, we did the COVID thing. They wanted a dog, so we got a dog. Of course,
it was during COVID. Is that what you said? Okay.
So they don't pay attention to the dog. We've had it for 4 years.
Okay.
We haven't had a dog. I mean, we've never been successful with dogs.
Okay.
And now this one just puts hair all over our house, drives my wife nuts.
Oh really?
Oh yeah, just because it's like you see hair in the.
I know it gets in like everything. Well, depending on the kind of dog, I guess.
Yeah, so
some of them don't. Should have short head ones.
She's perfectly fine, but it's like.
Okay. She's a lab.
The funny thing, she's purebred. I mean, like it's like we had her neutered kind of thing, so she can't have babies, but but yeah, we spent a lot of money on her. And,
I bet.
Kids,
it's purebred. Whew.
The kids don't spend any time with her. So
they wanted her.
She's more of an annoyance, but like when our dog ran away for a couple days and we couldn't find her, they were flipping out. I'm like,
okay.
So
and you have 4 kids, 5 kids?
Four.
Okay.
4 kids, yes.
Okay.
My oldest is turning 21 in 3 weeks.
Okay. which is Caleb.
Yes.
Because he's the only one I remember, because
There's Caleb, then
when we
Allie.
left Calvary, he was
when
in
we left.
Cubbies.
Jennifer was 9 months pregnant with Allie.
Okay.
And she was we had Allie.
Okay.
So we had Caleb and Allie, but Allie was 2 years old when we left. And then Toby, she was 9 months pregnant with Toby.
Okay.
And Toby was born a month after the church was born.
Okay.
So he was born like literally to the day, like 1 month.
Okay.
And then Madeline came along a couple years later.
Oh, so you got 2 and 2, just like me. Nice, dude.
Boy, girl, boy,
Yeah.
girl. Everybody always asks how we do it. I'm like,
Yeah. Well, because, we have friends that don't, can make nothing but one kind.
yes.
So it's like,
The brother-in-law, he has 4 girls.
Okay.
He has 4 girls. And,
Yeah. Oh, is that Mike?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's crazy, man.
Yeah. It's time flies, man. But yeah, I remember having Caleb in Cubbies.
Uh-huh.
And that's, we left Calvary shortly after that.
Yeah.
And then you guys went and started, which was Village Chapel,
Yeah.
but now it's
Hope Chapel.
Hope Chapel.
Yeah.
Okay.
We moved a year ago.
You moved buildings?
Yeah, we moved 2.5 miles away. We moved to a property that has like 5 acres.
Okay.
We went from 2,000 square feet to 11,000 square feet of ministry space.
Oh, wow, man.
And this property that we've been just working on for the last year.
Okay.
And so it's awesome.
Okay. I remember I had John Singh on here, and he was talking about a move that you guys, when they were going there. That was a different move, though, right?
No, that was
was the move he was talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny because they, like right as we were moving, they moved.
Okay.
Because they bought a place up in, Paso or whatever you want to call it, San Miguelito or whatever, like that. So
because you want more heat, I guess.
Well, they wanted a ranch for the daughter to have her horses at.
Oh, right.
And so I guess she's doing a whole horse thing up there. I haven't talked with them.
Yeah, because she's married now. Ashley's married.
I did their wedding. Yeah.
Oh, you did it.
I did their
cool.
wedding.
Oh, how fun.
Was it 2 years ago?
Okay.
I did their wedding 2 years ago.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, Matt Patterson did our oldest wedding. Laura got married.
No way.
4 years ago. 4 years?
Dang.
3 years. I think they're 3 years.
Now, how old is she now?
She's 25. Wow. Yeah, so she's 25. Aiden's 22.
Yeah.
Not married yet. And then we got Addie, who's 16, and Asher, who's 14.
So funny, all our kids are like
Yeah.
Because I even see the Wheelers, they moved to Tennessee.
Yeah.
And one of their daughters goes to Vanguard with my daughter.
Okay. I'm
not sure which one because they
Becca.
Okay.
Yeah, I had her on here too. Right before she left.
Okay.
So she talks a lot about going to Vanguard.
Okay. Yeah.
There,
My
so.
daughter loved it, man.
Okay.
She went. My daughter went last fall. Becca went in
Okay.
December or January.
Okay.
So
do they know each other, or are they?
Probably not.
No, it's one of those things. Somebody hears you're from California.
Yeah.
Hey, I have friends that live in California.
Well, okay, but here's the thing: there is a buttload of people from Santa Maria at Vanguard.
Interesting.
Because you have Pacific Christian Center,
okay.
So you have a lot of those kids. But there's just random people from Santa Maria. My daughter would meet people like, "Oh, where are you from? Central Coast? Where? Santa Maria?" I'm like, "I live in Santa Maria." Like,
yeah.
But they never knew each other while they were here.
Isn't that weird?
And then they're like, "But it was just a ton of people from Santa Maria Vanguard."
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, Laura went to Biola.
Okay.
And she ran into Soraya Bedford over there, and they're like, "Hey,
yeah, I know,
I know you."
Isn't that funny? Isn't that
so
totally
weird,
funny?
man? Yeah, you just go so far away. But like, so maybe you can answer this for me then, because back when a long time ago, Calvary, a long time ago, when you were still pastoring there.
Yeah.
There was a group. They were from some school. Was it?
It was Vanguard.
It was Vanguard. It was the band group.
That was Vanguard.
And it was like last minute, and they're like, "Look, we need some host families just for overnight."
Yep.
And we threw like 7 kids in our living room, and that's back when we were in a 2-bedroom.
I remember that
low income housing.
Yes,
so
I remember
it's
that
like,
place, yes.
And then they came over and like, because we were told they were gonna have sleeping bags and all that stuff. Well, they got over, they had nothing.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm like scrambling. I'm calling my mom. Like, hey, do you have any blankets, pillows, anything extra? I got these kids in my living room. I gotta like do something with them. It was crazy.
Yeah, I remember that. That was right before we left.
Okay.
I remember that was yeah.
So that was Vanguard, because when Becca was talking about going to Vanguard, it kept triggering that. And I'm thinking, I think that was. In fact, I think I even said that on the episode. That I think that's the school that we hosted a couple of kids just for a night. I mean, it was not like you got to know them or anything. It was like literally they got here like 9:30 p.m. and they were gone at like 7 a.m. the next morning. You know, so it was really quick.
Yeah, that was. I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So funny, man. But yeah. So that's where we're at. Kids wise, just getting old, watching our kids get old, and it's good times. But it doesn't seem like that much time has gone by. Like when I talk about the old Calvary days, it doesn't seem like 20 20 years ago or whatever it was. It's
17
crazy.
years ago.
Is that how long when you guys left?
It was 17 and a half years ago, yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And we're back there now.
Are you guys really?
Yeah, we've been back for about 2-3 years now.
Okay.
We hopped around a lot. We were at Harbor. That's how I know Matt.
Yeah.
We were there. We were in Sisquoc, which is where originally we went from Calvary to Sisquoc.
Yes.
Then we were there 12 years. Then we came.
Did that pastor pass away?
No. He is still out there doing church services.
Major cancer.
He did. Still does. As far as I understand.
Do the Van Horns still go out there?
They do. Yeah, the Van Horns are still out there. Yeah. When they go.
So the parents marking?
No. They left before we did.
Okay.
Yeah, they were out of there before we did, which was hard because he was one of my core friends out there.
Well, he's the one who started it all.
In a sense.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because he did the Greek class at Calvary, and then so.
Well, I'm coming after vegetarianism.
I hope so.
Just joking.
Which I'm no longer a vegetarian.
No.
Oh yeah, that's been years.
Oh my gosh, my whole shtick is gone.
Bethany still is though.
Is she really?
Yeah, she's still sticking with it. She still eats. She eats some fish now.
Yeah.
Which she never would do before. But I started eating meat again back in when Bethany was pregnant with Addie, who is now 16.
See, all that pressure I gave on you all those years, finally worked out. Yeah.
Well, no, you know what it was is okay. So wait a minute. So then you must have,
because I harassed you incessantly to the point where my wife got on my case.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I remember one time we went over to your house we were shoveling dirt. I think
Dirt, right? Me, you and Thomas. Yeah,
in
my front yard.
Yes, and you got like a big sub sandwich.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a meat on it, obviously.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, just pull the meat off. Just eat it with the vegetables. I was like, dude, the meat was touching it. And you're like, are you kidding me?
Oh, I
know. Because I was hardcore back then. I was like an activist. It wasn't just like, oh yeah.
You gave me the whole the poor animal thing. Right, I just
exactly.
I'm like, if you knew what happened with these animals.
Right. Yes. But for me, it was like once I got into really believing in the scripture.
Yeah.
And seeing that God has given us the animals to eat, that was the turning point for me. And then for years, it was just me.
Yeah.
And if it was just me, because before that, I always thought it was against God. And that was a moral reason. I was like, well, I don't want to go against God of all the universe, But now it's just me holding me back, and I'm smelling the burgers and the tri-tip, and I'm going, oh, that smells pretty stinking good over there. So, I finally just like, you know what? I'm going to go back and eat a little bit here and there. And I thought Bethany would too eventually, but she's actually grossed out by a lot of it. Like, she'll prepare meat for us, but she gets kind of...
I used to always laugh because, we'd see her at Cool Hand Luke's, like dropping these huge old plates of slabs of beef.
Right. Well, people always ask her, like, well, what do you say when someone wants you to recommend a steak?
Yeah.
She goes, I always tell them, well, my husband really likes this one, or my husband always gets this one, Which, by the way, is the ranch steak with the shrimp scampi, in case you're wondering.
Go.
That's
there
the
best.
You go. That's the best. You can keep a ribeye all day. Too much fat in them things. Everybody swears by ribeyes. I'll take a New York or a...
it's funny. My wife was... I like ribeyes. My wife was a ribeye. Now she's really into the... it's either the top sirloin or the New York. I think it's the top sirloin.
Yeah.
She really likes that. Especially like
Shaw's.
Fat, Shaw's is...
Shaw's
is so amazing.
Shaw's burgers are bomb.
We smell it every day.
Yeah.
Smell it every afternoon. Walk out. I'm like... Oh.
Do you ever is it like in the cartoons where you start floating through the air following the scent?
Yeah, it was funny because a lot of times I'm out there getting ready to start my barbecue.
Yeah.
And I'm smelling it. I'm going...
You're like, my steak's not going to be this good.
Oh, no, I'm sitting there going, mine's going to be better. Because mine ain't costing, $60 a plate.
That's true. The money aspect.
Oh, man. We went there, just me and her. It was crazy.
Date night?
Yeah, we'll go with that. Our kids were out of the house, so isn't that automatically a date night? You go out and dude, it was so good, but we spent like $150
just on two of you.
On two of us. I'm like, what the heck?
Did you get drinks and dessert and stuff?
No, we don't get drinks. I really like their iced tea there.
Okay.
Because I started liking iced tea when they used to be, because Guja's own Jetty and they also own Shaw's.
Right.
And they own Pantry and they own Crumbles.
Do they own Shaw's still?
I think so.
They do, okay.
Yeah. And so when back at the old Jetty, I always fell in love with their iced tea.
Okay. Is it flavored?
It has an interesting spice to it that it was just like, oh, this I could just keep drinking this. Yeah. And it's the only place that I've found it, even though I've seen other places sell it, like this China mist tea or something like that.
Okay.
But nobody else's place tastes like this one does. The way they do it. And so Shaw does it exactly like the old Jetty. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I just always get iced tea. It doesn't matter.
That's
like,
funny.
Yeah.
So this is my favorite drink of all time, but my second favorite drink is Thai tea.
Oh.
But my friend Ben gets it from, he has a friend who lives in Thailand.
Oh.
And he actually sends him tea, and when I go over to his house, he makes it. And I can't find it like that anywhere. I don't know if it's the brand or if it's the way he makes it there. But like we go to Thai Hut, and it's good. It's good Thai tea. But every time I'm drinking, I'm going, Ben's is better, man. Ben's is just something different about it.
I'll tell you this. Ban Thai is okay, but the Thai food in Santa Maria is horrible.
Okay.
The Thai food in Lompoc is amazing.
Really?
Yes. There's three. There was three. I think there's still just two now. There's two Thai, but up in AG is like.
I've been to that one.
So there's Thai Divine, which looks like it's just
the
like
name
a
of it.
hole in the wall.
Is it in the village? Like you keep walking past the village?
No, it's down towards Grover Beach.
Okay.
Like it's almost when you get to. They probably would call it Grover Beach, but it's just AG.
Okay.
It's on Grand, like pretty close to the beach, and it's just like.
Okay.
We had some friends turn us on to it. It's really
What
good.
do you get there? What do you guys like pad thai? And...
No, we're not. Actually, we're pad see ubed people, but we're not the noodle people. We like the curry.
Okay.
We like
rice?
the red curry.
Okay.
We love red curry. Usually medium heat.
Okay.
We like that. And we love tom kha soup.
I never tried that.
So tom kha soup is my favorite thing.
What's in it?
It's made out of coconut milk, and it has chicken in it, and it has like ginger and all this other stuff. It's like
interesting.
Unreal.
Is it like white in color, like the broth?
White, yellowish.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just the best. It's like my favorite soup.
So you guys go into like the stuff you can't pronounce. I'm always scared of that stuff because I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Like what even is that?
Well, there's only 3 types of Thai food, really. There's only really that you have the soups, you have the curries, and you have the noodles. Mm-hmm. They do meats, but the meats are usually like a add-on to like either the rice or the noodles. And so you really can't go wrong.
Right. Yeah, we usually do the yellow curry over rice.
Yeah,
is what we'll get over there.
Yeah, we get the red curry. I've had yellow curry a couple times. For some reason the flavor is not. I like the red.
I don't know if I've ever had red.
Oh, it's good.
I'll have to try that. Is it red or is it like the orange kind?
No, it's
because I've had like an orange kind. I've had that. Maybe I've had. Well,
and there's also red Penang curry too.
Okay.
So it's just crazy.
Yeah, and they all taste very different.
Sure,
but similar.
We'll go with
similar but different.
They're very similar, but the only one I couldn't. I'm like, I don't like this yellow curry. Like I just think my palate. But I like Thai food a lot.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, I'm gonna have to call you next time I go. Say, hey, what do I get, man?
Pad Thai is kind of like what like green people who are new to or kids.
And that's us. That's totally us. But we got that
chicken on it. Yeah,
we're stuck with it.
But you got to be adventurous. So I would try spring rolls. Have you ever had spring rolls?
I think so. Yeah.
So those are the almost clear ones, translucent. Yeah, those are really
with
good.
The sprouts and stuff
with
inside?
all the dipping sauces.
Okay.
Oh, that's amazing.
Okay.
And your wife would love it because the best ones are vegetarian with tofu in them.
Okay.
And that's me saying that.
Right. You eat tofu?
Well, and those things with that.
You think you'd run screaming out of the room, man?
I know.
I'm a hippie.
I know, but with the peanut butter sauce or the peanut sauce they have, or the curry Thai, so good.
Okay.
My son's dating a Filipino girl now, and they send us
lumpia,
like homemade.
Yeah, dude.
With homemade.
So
lumpia. Our family fights over it,
dude.
Man.
So here's something interesting. Like, I don't know how this happened to begin with, but so my cousin, I don't know if you ever met my cousin Danny. He lives in Washington now, but he's married to Denise's sister.
Okay.
And they've been living up in Washington for years.
Okay.
And I guess I still haven't really got the story. Her name's Danielle. I guess that she grew up making lumpia, and she's
Denise's sister.
Yeah, she's blonde hair, blue eyed, white as can be.
So here's the interesting thing. So where Denise grew up, which is over by El Camino, is a huge Filipino community.
Okay,
because because Toby's girlfriend's parents grew up right by there, and I remember them talking about where they lived. I'm like, oh, that's where Denise Yamamoto grew up.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure she was exposed to multi-cultures over there.
Yeah, but the fact that they even know how to make it.
I know.
So it's like every time we go visit Washington now, it's like a big family affair. We all get together.
Yes.
All these white people, we all get together and we make lumpia.
Yeah.
And we make all kinds of different kinds and we gorge ourselves on it. And we all feel sick and it's so worth it. And we're like, this is great.
Totally. Because you only get lumpia, like, you only get it a couple times a year.
Right.
You know?
Right. But I mean, when I'm done, I feel like
it's not like you can go to a restaurant and just order a lumpia. Because
right.
it's like, there's not, I think there's one place in town that sells it.
Yeah. Well, there's a guy that's always posted on the Facebook group, the local Facebook group, whatever that's called. I forgot what it's called, but he has plates all the time, and people just flock to it. Oh, where are you going to be? I'm going to be here on this time. This day. Let me know how many.
If there was a lumpia food truck, that would be dangerous.
Yeah. Right. Or just Filipino food in general. I don't know how well that would do. I mean, if they have
There's a guy across our street from our church who just opened up his own food truck. It's called Yum Yum Hibachi.
Okay.
And he makes these stir-fry plates that, first of all, they weigh like 10 pounds. Like, there's massive. It's like $20 and you get like all this rice and noodles and protein and all that. It's so good.
That's awesome.
With all this amazing sauce.
Yeah. See, the sauce makes it.
It does.
So good. And speaking of sauce, this is totally off topic, but have you tried Lovey's yet?
No.
So Ricky's House of Pizza?
Yeah.
So I work there, by the way.
Oh, you do?
I deliver a couple nights a week. Again, I know the owners. Ricky doesn't own it anymore.
Okay.
It's now owned by Pat and Jen Silva. I don't know if you know them or not.
Pat Silva owns it?
Pat Silva.
No way.
Yeah, you know Pat Silva?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
He was best friends with my brother-in-law.
With Aaron.
Growing up. Yes.
Right, that's right.
Like, I mean, literally best friends.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so Pat Silva owns it, and his wife runs it. And
because doesn't Pat like a huge ag guy?
He does HVAC stuff, I think.
Okay, he switched
his jobs. Yeah,
he's always been an incredible salesperson.
Yes, and I think that's still what he does, but for this. But but anyway, so they were doing Ricky's at night, and the lunchtime just wasn't really that good. So Jen opened a whole new like a deli. Wow. So it's Lovey's Deli from like 9 or 10 a.m. until like 2 in the afternoon. I'm probably getting the hours wrong. And then from like 3 on, it's Ricky's. Oh. And that's every day but Sunday. And dude, some of the best sandwiches ever.
Let's go check that out.
There's one, my favorite sandwich of all time, literally anywhere, is called the Latina. And it's literally got a jalapeno popper in it. Ooh. And it comes with this like spicy mayo that's like the best sauce ever made. Dude, it's fantastic. Ah. It's so stinking good. But they're only open for the lunchtime hour, so you'd have to make a point to get over there during that time.
It's good to know because we're always looking for we always like good sandwiches.
Yeah, and they have like a bunch. And they have sliders, groups of sliders, different kinds of sliders. Bethany loves it. They have a few good vegetarian ones over there that she likes. And then they have salads and stuff. And oh, dude, they have a pasta salad over there that's just so good. It's got the salami in there and all this. Dude, it's just fantastic. But anyway, you make me hungry, man.
I know, man.
All right, let's talk of Thai food and stuff. So, all right, well, I go into music first.
Okay.
We're going to go into music first. This is something about you I know nothing. I mean, are you even a music fan?
There's a reason you know nothing because there's really not much. I was laughing. You're like, your earliest childhood memory of music, and I'm sitting there going, oh, this is back in the 70s, so because I turned 55 in a couple of weeks.
Oh, wow.
So I was trying to think of it because, I mean, growing up, I was always top 40 until I found U2. Okay. And I was a big U2 fan until they went all rave.
Okay. At what point was that? Like Zooropa era?
Yeah. After well, I didn't even catch the Zooropa because I think, it was kind of like it was mid 90s. I think because the early 90s was, I think there was they did the like Rattle and Hum or something like that. Or
Rattle and Hum came out right after Joshua Tree, which was their big. Everybody thinks that's their first album, but it was just their big one.
Dude, I had Under a Blood Red Sky.
Yeah,
I never got October. I like Under a Blood Red Sky was my first real album.
That's one with Pride on it, I think, right?
Yeah.
But then Rattle and Hum, and then they did Octoon Baby, which was
not Pride. Not Pride. No.
Oh no.
No. Under a Blood Red Sky was a
Desire.
It was a live concert.
Okay.
And it was they had Sunday Bloody Sunday on there.
Oh right.
And they had October, and they had it was just crazy. It was like
So a live album was your favorite at the time?
That was the first U2 album, and then I got all of them after that.
Oh, that was just the first one you got?
Yeah, from U2.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
nice.
I had some friends in my youth group who were totally into U2, so they turned me on to it.
Okay.
And so that was like, but I mean, before that, it was just like all top 40. I mean, it was like because my parents were kind of strict Christians, so they wouldn't buy me. So I had to listen to whatever's on the radio.
Right.
You know,
on Christian radio. Or,
yeah.
or
No. Because there was no Christian radio.
Okay.
Back then.
And secular radio wasn't as filthy as it is today.
Well, it was top 40. It was.
Okay.
I mean, it was like. Like
Casey.
Michael Jackson. Oh yeah, top 40 was like huge. But I'm like trying to remember back in the 70s because I don't like, I wasn't really into 70s music because it was like there was a lot of weird stuff back then.
Yeah, it was either disco or prog rock.
Yeah, you had stuff like, I still remember like Stairway to Heaven being so controversial, and I remember, all those bands like that, all those British rock bands.
Yeah.
But I never got into them, but I remember hearing songs and all that kind of stuff. But I'm trying to remember like the earliest one.
Well, the reason I ask that is like today though.
Yeah.
Is music something that you enjoy?
I listen to. I'm a podcast junkie.
Okay.
Like I have a rotation of podcasts that I listen to, and then so I have this thing where I listen to podcasts all the way to work because I have a 30-minute drive.
Okay.
And I listen to those podcasts every morning. And then I listen to audiobooks on the way home.
Okay.
But if I listen to music, I have some playlists that I have. Like I listen to a lot of worship music.
Okay.
That's just because, my son's a worship leader at our church, and so we'll talk.
Oh,
about
really?
That. Oh, yeah, he leads worship at our church.
Which son?
Caleb.
Really?
Yeah.
Does he sing?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He plays guitar. He plays drums. He started by playing drums, then he picked up guitar. Like a year or two ago, and he's
okay.
2 years ago he picked up guitar and just started leading worship, and he's been growing. And it's awesome. That's what he wants to do.
That's so cool. I got to check that out.
It is really cool. Yeah, you check out our YouTube channel. You'll see it every other Sunday, something like that. So
okay, because he switches off with someone else, or
yeah.
Okay.
We have another kid in our church who he's 25, but he's
a kid.
He's my associate pastor's son too. So
okay,
but I have some playlists like Ed Sheeran.
Okay.
Who's the other one? I have this one that I do for like bike rides.
Okay. Is it like energetic?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
But it's like such an eclectic mix of like dumb songs. Like it's just.
I have a playlist called Pump Up.
Yeah.
That I put on if I'm ever doing anything strenuous, which isn't very often, but when I am doing something strenuous, that's what I put on.
Yeah, and then I have Hootie and the Blowfish.
Oh, dude, old school.
Oh, totally. My music is very. I don't want to say vanilla, but it's very like. Yeah. It's not out there.
Okay.
It's just because I just don't listen to music.
Yeah.
My kids are all into it. My daughters, like, they were into Taylor Swift for a long time. They've kind of, like, dumped her recently because her last album wasn't that good and because she's just gotten crazy.
Yeah, she's getting a little more political than she needs
Even
to.
though I like the fact that she's dating Travis Kelce.
Okay.
And I followed that because I watched their podcasts.
Are you a Chiefs fan or?
I'm not. Okay. I'm not really a pro football fan at all.
Okay.
But Jason and Travis Kelce's, like, the podcast on YouTube is hysterical.
Oh, they have a podcast.
Oh yeah, it's like the number one. It's like the number 1 or 2 podcast in the world.
Oh really?
Yeah, like it's like Rogan, it's right up there right up there with Rogan. It's just crazy. And of course now that once he started dating Taylor Swift about a year ago, it just exploded even farther.
Yeah.
And so, they're just funny. They're crude. Their language is horrible, but it's but they're funny.
Yeah.
I haven't.
What do they talk about? Like sports, or do they talk about?
Okay, so they started off by just making fun of themselves, like all the funny stuff that they did when they were kids, or funny stuff that they've gotten into like as adults, and then but then they would talk about football and because Jason just retired, and so they would talk about their games and what happened with their games that week and all that kind of stuff. And it was just and sometimes they have special guests on, but it was just hijinks. It was just like they're just goofballs,
just two brothers being silly,
totally, and just laughing like crazy. But the Taylor Swift thing has added a whole other thing, and then Jason's wife, she's awesome, and she's funnier than they are, but in a very deadpan like.
See, I love that. That's my favorite kind of humor.
They're totally yucking it up, and she comes up with these deadpan lines, and you're just like. And so anyways.
That's awesome.
So I all that to say is like I don't really. Every once in a while I'll turn some music on when I just need my brain to check off.
Right.
But
like
background music. But I've been engaged in some pretty cool audiobooks lately, so I haven't had to.
Okay.
If I don't have any good audiobooks in the afternoon from home, coming home from work, I'll listen to.
Then you're
to
forced
music.
to listen to music.
But I never listen to radio.
Okay. I don't either, actually.
I can't even tell you what the radio is.
Yeah.
Every once in a while I'll put Air One on because it's worship music.
Right.
But even that rarely.
Right.
Because I have my own
playlist.
It's
because and again, I always wonder, is this because is everybody like this? Like you look at the music of when you were younger as the best music? Like for me, it's the 90s. Like the 90s is the best music.
To me, it's 80s.
Okay.
80s music is
See, I love 80s too.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick, I'd say 90s. But it's like I listen to most new music. It's very rare for there to be somebody new that I enjoy. I do like Taylor Swift. Me and my daughter bond over that. We listen to Taylor Swift. Her new album's taking a while to grow on me. I don't dislike it, but I definitely like her other stuff better. But yeah, it's just most new. It's very rare. Yeah. But when it happens, it's really exciting.
Yeah.
I always say 21 Pilots is one of the ones for me that.
I don't even know who they are.
Oh, you've never heard of 21 Pilots?
Well, so
I bet you've heard them. You just didn't realize it.
So 2 years ago, I took my girls on a business trip with me. I had to go to Boston, and they went with me. So because they've been, I got 1 year. I got a chance to take all my kids on a different business trip.
Okay,
and it was really cool. And so they went to Boston with me, and we rented a car and drove over a lot of Massachusetts and New Hampshire and all that kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
They were in charge of the playlist.
Okay,
so I heard a lot of Taylor. I heard a lot of Bruno and Noah. Kalen or something like that, who my daughter's so into.
I don't even know who that is. Noah Kalen?
Kalen? I have
Noah is the first name?
Yeah, he's really big. He almost won like an Emmy or something like that. I have
never heard of that guy.
I'll tell you what it is right now because my daughter.
It's like pop music. Your girls are mostly into pop music.
This one is more folksy. Yeah, Noah Kahan. So this guy right here. Yeah, she's
looks
really
like a rapist or something, dude.
I know.
Looks like a mugshot. Looks like they're gonna be on America's Most Wanted.
So she's my youngest daughter's. So I listen to their music only because, like, when they get in the car, they want to play DJ,
right?
And I just let them. So
because that helps with you being kind of indifferent. You don't really care.
Well, and so I subscribe to Apple Music, which is like $25 a month, and they can get family versions, so they can listen to whoever they want to.
So you get the family version that way. They're not like downloading Eminem or anything like that.
Well, my son every once in a while. What's funny is like I'll get into my car and he had his phone synced up with my stereo and or do there's radio or whatever you call it now.
Yeah.
I pride myself on being like totally out of touch with this stuff,
I am too. I don't know none of the new words or nothing.
Yeah, and so anyways, and also like some like funky like hip hop song will be on, and I'm like, dude, why are you listening to this? I don't listen to that. I'm like, yeah, come on, man.
Yeah.
So, but I listened to that stuff when I was a kid too. I mean, that's my parents didn't approve a lot of stuff I listened to when I was growing up. So,
were they okay with you too?
Or no? I think by the time I got into U2, they had loosened the reins quite a bit. Okay. So.
Because U2 is one of those groups where some people say they're a Christian band and other people say not.
Even the whole time, I never bought that line because I'm like, because I've always been like, well, can I see Christianity in you?
Right.
I mean, you should be known by your fruit. I mean, people, you can tell the difference between a Christian and non-Christian.
Right.
I don't care what people say.
But Bono would profess to be a Christian. Yeah. I think even today he would profess that.
Oh, I'm pretty sure. But I mean, it would be a very liberal Christian because he's all about social justice.
Right.
So,
right.
So I don't. I mean, and I can guarantee you, the bass player Adam, he's not a Christian.
Right.
He's an Edge. When he talks, no, So
is
maybe
Adam the one that's from around here somewhere?
No, they're all from Ireland.
Well, I know from, but one of them was living in the Pomo or something.
Oh, I don't know about that. I know Edge lived in Malibu for a long time.
Okay. No, I know it's not Edge or Bono. It's one of the other ones.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I've never.
And I want to say he lived. In fact, I was at Oktoberfest one year. This is years ago in the Pomo over there by the school at that little park, and he was there.
I wonder if he was.
And everybody's pointing him out and stuff. And
I wonder if he was with neighbors with Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt.
Maybe.
I used to always laugh when they said that they lived in Santa Barbara. I'm like, it's not even the same county.
Yeah, because it was Pomo, right?
Yeah, it totally lived in a Pomo.
It's because nobody knows anything until the Michael Jackson trial. Nobody knew where Santa Maria was.
Everybody wants to say Santa Barbara anyways, because Santa Barbara's like,
that's the cool place.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the way we describe it usually. Like, oh, you're from Santa Maria? Yeah, we're about an hour north of Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Or,
we always get people riff. I've seen people who live in Santa Maria and they'll put Santa Barbara on their social media. I'm like, you ain't from Santa Barbara? Mm-hmm. Santa Barbara County. I'm like, shut up, man.
Yeah, exactly.
So funny.
You want to top off?
No, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Okay. Ooh, I'm tripping.
But that's the funny part about when I saw all your questions on music, I was like, oh man.
Yeah. Well, some people are all about music, some people are not
Yeah.
at all. So I mean, that's totally fine.
Yeah,
Obviously. I mean, for me, the reason why I picked those three topics for this podcast is because those are the three things I love talking about the most.
I just laugh about like the clips that are used more on social media, you know, because like, you know, most people don't even know what the whole song says.
Right.
All they know is that little like riff and 30-second riff on the on the social media posts that they put on their things.
Which song are we talking about?
No, when you go on social media, people put music on their posts.
Oh,
especially
right.
on Instagram.
Yes.
Or YouTube or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like this like a 30-second clip, you know, kind of thing. And most people don't even know what the whole song is. Like, you know, because I've told my kids a couple times, like, oh, that's this song. I mean, because it's like they're using just a small snippet from songs that like when I grew up. Yeah. And
well, there was one that was the one, and I just found out who it was because somebody had told me. Yeah. But it's like you're saying, you're scrolling through and you're doing the thing, and there's like 30-second clips. And there was that one that was in a bunch of them. It was that one where the girl goes, "Oh no."
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. And I was like, "What is it?" Yes.
But
it's an actual song. Like, so I was talking to somebody. I was like, "Oh," she goes, "Oh, I know what that is." And she looked up. She goes, "This one?" I go, "Yes." Yeah. So now I know, but I don't remember who it was, but
the clip is way more famous than the song ever be.
Because it works, right? They pick something that has the words that are going to fit what's happening. Like, totally. Oh, here's a picture of or a video of an old lady falling down the stairs. Yes. Let's put "Oh no" in there, you know. Yes. So whatever works.
Oh, my wife. Yeah, I don't hear as much anymore. But man, I remember when it like first came out. Gosh, like every other reel was like that. Right. It was that song, and she was just like, oh.
Yeah. It was for a while, and there's another one that was in every one that's got a bad word in it. I forgot which one that was, but it was on everything. And it was like, I think it was like sexually explicit too. And it was like, dude, I can't even scroll this anymore. It's like every single one is this, you know?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So these days though, you would say that, do you still listen to U2 these days, or it's just worship music now?
I haven't listened to them in forever, man. I haven't.
Okay.
I mean, every once in a while I'll hear it and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I think a couple years ago I saw Rattle and Hum on TV. I'm like,
okay. Yeah, because that was a movie.
It was like on either A&E or you know, because there was one channel that was showing a lot of concerts as shows, like the Garth Brooks one and all these different things. Yeah. And they showed Rattle and Hum. I'm like, oh, so I watched a little bit because it's like, you know, that
nostalgic. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, because I didn't come in until I remember with U2. It was my dad was a fan of when the Joshua Tree album came out and they had the Where the Streets Have No Name video. Yep. And I have a distinct memory of watching that music video with my dad, and that was 1987, so I was like 9 or 10 years old. Totally. And I remember I bought him the cassette tape, the Joshua Tree cassette tape from Kmart one year for it was either for Christmas or his birthday, and I remember we used to listen to it in the car in the cassette deck in the car all the time, and that's when I developed my love of U2, and then a couple years later, well, then Rattle and Hum was after that, but then the next official album was Achtung Baby.
Yeah, and I think that's where I dropped off was Achtung Baby.
And I still love that one
because it was like kind of like they were going that way. Right. But when you grew up with Under a Blood Red Sky and the one that went right after that, I wish I could remember the name of it. It was like they were losing their. Yeah. They were losing their edge. Right. You know, they were becoming more dance club kind of music and
that came in. And I want to say I think Zooropa was the next one after Achtung, and that's where that song.
That's where I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm done.
It was a little.
Somebody gave me that album for free, like on digital thing, and I'm like, no, I can't.
I don't even want this for free.
I know, seriously.
Yeah. I can't say I've totally thrown them out, but I still, when they put new albums out, I've listened to all their stuff up to now, and there's always some songs that I enjoy. Yeah, no. But as a whole, it's never as good as like it used to be.
And they're still the best live band.
Okay, have you seen them?
No, I haven't seen them live, but I've seen them enough on like in live things where like they're still, and everybody I could never afford like tickets. I had friends going to this concert like. I can't afford this kind of tickets. Yeah. And even back then, and they would always say best live, and then I'd see them live, and I'm like, yeah, because Bona just has a presence,
right? Yeah.
I
bet.
And so
I've never seen them live either, but
they got a little shticky, like late '90s, early 2000s, where they would just doing stupid stuff during the concerts, and my friends would be like.
Oh, really? Like what? Do you remember?
Like calling people, like calling like politicians.
On the phone?
Yes, like in the middle of the concert and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like...
See, I don't like. I don't mind a political band.
Yeah.
If that's the point of the band. Like there's a band. I don't know if I love punk rock, and there's a band called Propagandhi. I don't know if you ever heard of them. Very political.
Yeah.
I don't think they've ever wrote a song that was not just in your face, staunchly political. They're animal rights activists. They're gay rights activists. They're all this. They're everything, right? And every single song is about that. And I'm like, okay, that's what you're doing. That's your band. That's your whole purpose. Exactly. That's the whole reason you started this band. But it's like when these bands come out, especially like pop bands or whatever, and they come out and they're on MTV and they're all over the place. And then one day they decide we're going to be political. And it's not even like their music's becoming political. Their music is still the normal stuff.
They try to use their platform.
Correct.
Somebody has convinced them to use their platform to try to influence people.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Same thing happened with Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Right, because and the way that was presented, I still remember when that happened. The way that was presented is like, oh, Taylor's been silenced for so long.
Yes.
But now she's finally speaking out.
Yeah.
And it was like this big thing. And of course she's preaching to the choir, of course, like all these people do.
Yes.
You show up at the Academy Awards and you start going off on all this liberal stuff. It's like, well, the whole room agrees with you. That's not bold.
It's an echo chamber.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be brave, go to the Republican National Convention and say that stuff.
I know, totally. That's why I was laughing the other day when I saw that Kamala Harris was in Atlanta and she had Megan Thee Stallion, like a concert. So the place was packed because that's always the knock on the Democrats is that their arenas aren't packed like Donald Trump's are.
Right.
Well, people pack the arena to come to see Donald Trump.
Right.
People packed the arena to go see Megan Thee Stallion. And then Kamala Harris started talking with her southern accent, and everybody left.
Oh, man.
It's like, I was just like dying. I'm like, I mean, you can,
Yeah, that's so terrible. Yeah, I was hearing some of the clips on that. I didn't watch the whole thing, but
I refuse to. Clips. I can't handle her voice. I
can't handle anything about her, to be honest with you. I cannot, and I still, okay, so when I first of all, when she was in as the running against Trump, I was floored.
Yeah.
Because I thought to myself, there is no one worse the Dems could put in than her.
Oh, yeah.
She's the worst.
Yes.
Because you look at when she was running for president, nobody liked her.
No.
She's vice president, nobody likes her. And this is both sides of the fence, nobody likes her.
Yeah.
But now that she's running against Trump and Biden's out of the way, now all of a sudden she's the wife of Jesus or something. Like she's
just the newest puppet.
But they're acting like they love her.
I know.
All these people that were like, oh, I hate her. Oh, she's the greatest thing ever. Like overnight.
Yes.
It was crazy. And now her numbers are jumping and it's like all this stuff's happening. But that's why, right? Because she's doing these things with these big musical acts and, and it's like, that's what you got to do.
It's funny because I always tell my church, I don't get political in the pulpit.
Right.
Unless it has to do with the state.
Right.
The state that we live in.
Yes.
So, if there's things going on in the state, I get pretty vocal about. If it's stuff, if there's trans stuff going on in the schools or something happening within our local government or the state, I go after it because that's where we live. I don't get into the national politics. I don't, but I do say, if you say you're a Christian and you're voting Democrat, I really question whether you're a Christian.
Okay, that's interesting.
Because the fact is you cannot... you cannot, how much their party line has shifted.
Yes.
When you see hardcore Democrats saying I'm out.
Right.
So, but I don't vote. I don't comment on the national stuff whatsoever because it's too incendiary and it's that's not the place.
Yeah.
But I talk about state stuff all the time because so I go after Newsom for his policies because those policies directly affect us.
Correct.
And our families. And I always tell our people the two worst politicians in the state of California history are Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always tell people that. I say it straight up from the pulpit. I'm like, they are literally the worst.
Yeah.
And here they are on the national stage and it's
right, it's kind of scary. So how do you account for then so many, I use the word Christian loosely because I'll hear what your thoughts are on this, that say that there's no way they're voting for Trump and they're definitely voting Democrat because they hate Trump so much?
And so what I typically, because I usually don't get into a lot of conversations, my size and my voice and my personality tends to scare people off just because it's just the nature of the beast, and I'm not my social media posts and what I say in my words are not political in a sense. So people don't a lot of people question where's he at on this kind of stuff,
right?
But when I'm so what I simply say is simply this is the fact is that I don't even go with the whole abortion thing because I'm like that's done and settled.
Yeah.
Okay, like, I mean, it's just like abortion is what it is. It's killing babies.
Right.
So I don't go, but I hit like the new issues that people are having to deal with face to face. I mean, when a parent sends their kid to a public high school, they're not dealing with an abortion.
Right.
They're dealing with critical race theory. Mm-hmm. They're dealing with a woke agenda.
Right.
You know, like pronouns kind of stuff.
Yeah.
They're dealing with trans and LGBTQ stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like on a daily basis in their face, it's literally being shoved down their throats. And so those are the issues that I hit like family issues.
Okay.
You know, because I have people in our church, like they're struggling with, like not so much with a person choosing that lifestyle, but the destruction that it's brought.
Right.
And so my job as a shepherd is to help them to navigate and to recover from a lot of this stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, if somebody comes and tells you like, my spouse wants a divorce and they're shacking up with somebody of the same sex, like,
yeah.
Where's the user manual on
right,
that? You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's like, and so you have to be able to speak to that. You know, if a parent says my child wants me to address them by certain pronouns and their non-binary kind of stuff. I mean, you just can't turn in the Bible,
right?
And I mean, so you have to have somebody who can kind of show you things and talk to you about how to navigate that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, because I'm not a finger pointer. I'm not a like, this is bad. I'm not a guilt tripper kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Because I told my kids before, because like, what do we do? What would you do if I got into a same sex relationship?
They asked you that?
Oh yeah, I've had kids tell me. Ask me.
Oh, not your kids.
No, my kids have asked me.
Have asked you that?
Yeah. And I'm like,
just because they're curious. What
I'm like, before we go into like me, like, let's clarify stuff. I'm like,
you're like, is this hypothetical or
yes,
is this like
exactly? And I tell them like, my love for you will never stop.
Right. But
my favor will.
Yeah. And
I want you to understand that in our family, love and favor are two separate things. Mm-hmm. They're intermixed, and I want to shower you with my favor, and I want to shower you with my blessings, and I want to spoil you, and I want to give you everything you can to be successful in life.
Right.
But if you start to make decisions that mm-hmm. are against what we believe as a family, but also what we believe the Bible says, right. then the love will remain. I will always love you. It's just right. unconditional.
You can't stop that.
Yeah, exactly. It's impossible for me to
right.
stop loving you.
Right.
I go, but the favor will be withdrawn.
Now, do you put that? Is there other things that you would do the same with? Like, what if your kid was, say, like a habitual liar? Would that fall in the same category? You'd be like, your favor's gone because you can't stop lying?
It's an issue of sin, it's an issue of trust, it's an issue of repetition. Mm-hmm. And so the sin, we have to look at the sin, and we're going to deal with the sin. And I'll forgive you of your sin, but then we still have the issues of my trust, like how bad was my trust
right.
destroyed, mm-hmm. and over how long a period of time.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, it's a lot of people like to get all dogmatic on stuff, but it's like, and so that's why I'm even afraid to like kind of like go into in depth, because it's like each situation is like, there's so many different unique things, and people want me, especially as a pastor, to give them a formula, and I'm like,
right.
no,
Well, and a lot of Christians, and I'm sure you run across this too, they tend to put the LGBT thing like as like the head cardinal sin of all time. I even had a guy tell me one time, he's like, to be honest with you, I could probably like accept any other sin. Like if my son killed somebody, I could probably deal with that better than if he told me he was gay.
It's just it's just the sin du jour right now. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds kind of like, but the thing is I mean, the trans movement is being so propagated upon people. I mean, like right now, the biggest controversy at the Olympics are two male boxers who are fighting as females. And
against women.
Against women.
Oh, I didn't know there was two. I just saw the one clip they keep showing.
No, there's two. There's two. There's one from Algeria and there's one from an Asian nation. I can't remember
Right.
what. And the Algerian guy like had a boxing match for 45 seconds.
That's the one I saw.
Yeah. Okay. But there's another guy. And so
the opponent, the actual female, she stopped the fight because she said, I've never been hit so hard.
Exactly.
I can't.
And so, anyways, and so that's, but that's, and people are arguing, like, there are females and they're arguing X and Y chromosomes and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sitting there like, this just shows you how blind sin is. I'm like, you look at these two dudes.
Right.
And they're dudes.
Yes.
They're dudes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. Like, and people are arguing all like the semantics. I'm like, they're dudes.
Yeah. But you say that, and some people want to kill you.
That's fine.
I mean, they're like, "How dare you?"
That's fine.
How dare you assume their gender?
That's fine, because the fact is if that boy has any encounter with my daughter, it's no longer gonna be just him and my daughter. It's gonna be me too.
Right.
Because my job as a parent, as a father, is to protect my daughters especially, and I see the opportunities for my daughters decreasing because of cowardly, perverted men.
Right.
I like that's probably the most heated issue that I have right now.
Yeah.
Because the fact is like, I feel like women were getting to the point where like they were getting all these opportunities and then all of a sudden now you have all these perverted men who can't compete with their own men. Yeah. So they act like women and then they're beating women on things. And it's just like,
yeah. I think this whole thing in the Olympics, though, is going to open a lot of eyes, because when it was happening in swimming, it's like, we can all see Leah Thomas is winning all this. It's like, this is lame, this is dumb.
Yeah.
But now it's watching a man beat the crap out of a woman on national TV, I think is going to open some eyes and be like, wait a second.
How many people are okay with it?
Oh, are you finding a lot of people that think it's good?
Yes.
Oh, man.
And it's like, but what it's even more concerning are people who don't say anything, who could say and should. But like, here's the Olympic Committee. Instead of actually saying no women, or no men whatsoever in women things, they left it up to they took the cowardly approach and they left it up to each division. Yeah. So like, boxing has their own regulations, swimming has their own regulations, and all these different things. Track and field, and so the swimming, like they told women no, like men no, you can't be trans.
Yeah.
But boxing, the boxing situation had it. The reason that these two guys are in this women's division is because there used to be called the International Boxing Association, and it was corrupt by the Russians, and so the Olympics had to shut it down and break off from it. And so they created their own. Well, there's just a bunch of cowards that are running Olympic committees. Okay. And so they refuse to make it because they don't want to upset anybody. That's how they got in their position in the first place.
Yeah, except now they're upsetting a lot of people. From the opening ceremony to
but then the Olympics just doubled down back on these guys and said that it was okay.
For the boxing?
Yeah.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. Okay. And so it's just kind of like, it's bad. And the sad thing is like, what people refuse to recognize are the facts. That the amount of perversion, so with trans, is like exponentially, like I want to say, I saw the figures and I can't remember them, but the amount of like illegal stuff that they do sexually, like with children and all these other different things, is almost certain. Yeah, that trans people are going to do that, and the fact they groom children for this, they don't want to. These trans people, they don't want to be with people their own age. They want to be with young children, which is like sick.
So why do you think then there's so many people that would, like, if you were, I know lots of people, if I was them and I'm sitting across from you hearing you say that, they would get so fired up and say, that's wrong. That's not true. Most trans people aren't like that at all. Sure, you can find some obscure people.
And I'm going to say, what you're saying is completely anecdotal because the facts totally refute what you're saying.
Right.
You find, they had, the government had two idiots who dressed like women. And one's still in government.
Oh, you're talking about
the one guy who was with the health organization. Yeah. There's another bald guy who was like
Adam something. I think.
And like he got arrested for stealing all these women's
clothing. Yes,
and
didn't he get busted for soliciting young boys?
Something like that.
Also,
and he was part of that group of people that the Dodgers recognized a year ago and it was like this sick group of guys. Yeah. So it's what's interesting is that they can say that all they want to, but it's just empty words.
Yeah.
Because I'll sit there and I go, you can keep saying that, but I have the facts to back up what I say.
Right. Right.
And I don't care if you don't like the facts,
Yeah.
but basically trans men are just perverts.
Right.
They're perverts preying on young men.
Yeah. You wouldn't say every single one is, though.
I would say 99.9%.
Okay. Because, I mean, there's the obvious ones, like when you see, like, the men in prison that are like, oh, I'm a woman. Can I go to the women's prison?
Yeah,
I mean, in all honesty, I put myself in those shoes.
Yeah.
I'm in prison for life, and I'm in there with all these dudes, and I'm a heterosexual, and I'm like, I don't like all these dudes. Hey, I'm a woman. I mean, it's kind of genius in a sense, right? But those guys, I think, are being diabolical, right?
Yeah.
But I do think there are people that do have a mental disorder that they really do believe themselves to be a gender opposite than what they were born as.
Yeah, I kind of used to believe along the way that you do, but the more that this is becoming out in the open and the more that it's becoming apparent, I'm like totally shut that down type of thinking. It is a sick, demented, perverted lifestyle, and we don't even know. We only know the surface of it.
Yeah.
And I keep hearing things like, because I for some reason I'm gravitating towards this issue just because of just seeing it out, and I keep hearing reports of what people say, and it's like, I see these guys, and they're literally, why they're in the elementary schools is because they want to groom these young boys, especially because what they want is they want to be able to get them when they're between the ages of 13 and 15.
Right.
That's
hormonal.
That's the sweet spot right there. They want to groom these boys into the point where they're at that point, and then and you think that they want to have them be trans, but they don't.
Right.
They want them as sexual objects.
Yeah.
And I used to be kind of like, oh, okay, these are just guys that are weird, like dressing up in women's clothing. But you get into the lifestyle, and you get behind the scenes, and you're like, this is demented. Like, it's just straight up demonic.
Yeah, and that's a good point too, because there's obviously a difference between what's happening now and when we were kids. You had cross dressers, you had drag queens, you had all this stuff going on. But what's happening now is a whole different animal.
Well, and when you bring things into mainstream, it exposes everything, because you can't protect it.
Right.
I mean, I was watching an episode of was it Blue Bloods? And because that's like our favorite show.
Tom Selleck, right?
Yeah.
Bethany
And there was like some murder at a transsexual club.
Okay.
Where these guys went and performed and all that kind of stuff. And it didn't show anything, but you start to realize, like, there's this seedy underlife that has been existing for like decades in New York, and just how vicious and maniacal it is. Yeah. And it's just now it's spreading, and honestly, I mean, just like with the LGBTQ, the trans, it's like it's like hip. Yeah. I mean, I saw a statistic a while back, but it said that 20 to 25% of all Gen Zs are homosexual. Right. And I'm like, well, yeah, because it's the popular thing to do. Right. I go, when those people get out of high school and even out of college, they're going to be like, and that's exactly what you're seeing. Yes. You're seeing these people, they're like, okay, I experiment with that, but I'm going to go back to, because it's not just an orientation. Right. It's a lifestyle. Yeah. And it's a sick, perverted lifestyle. Mm-hmm. It's not just like, oh, I prefer somebody of the opposites, or I prefer somebody of the same sex kind of thing. Like, behind this whole scene is like, it's a dark lifestyle, and people don't realize that. And so they want to defend them. Right. And so they take it anecdotally. Well, this person, like, they're their family member, and they're good-hearted, and they're got kind of that way. I go, and when I'm coming at this thing, I'm not coming at it people. Mm-hmm. I'm coming at, like, the lifestyle. Right. I mean, the amount of abuse, like physical abuse, just within the male gay community is 40% higher than male to female abuse. Wow. I had a friend who worked at a it was a woman's abused hotline. Yeah. And they begged him to come in because they needed a guy. And he's like, well, why do you need a guy? He's like, because most of our calls are starting to become gay men. Oh, wow. Who are getting beat up by their gay lover, or by just their partner for that night.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's like, and he found out that it was literally 40% more from that women's hotline. It was 40% more than you'll never ever see that.
Yeah.
On the news.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That was 20 years ago when my friend told me. So can you imagine where that's at now?
Right. Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's just like, so, I mean, what people don't understand, like, they just treat it so, like, personally, and they treat it, like, so shallowly. I'm like, no, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, when people get into this stuff, it's really dark.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous, you know? And I'm not coming at the person when they have same-sex feelings or they've even acted on it, because it, you know, although the Bible calls it an abomination, it still falls in line with adultery and all these other different things, you know, and it's and it's just it's a sexual sin that has to be dealt with.
Well, I'm sure as a pastor you have obviously counseled with people that are involved in infidelity.
Yeah, totally.
But have you counseled with anybody who's struggling with same-sex attraction?
You know, not directly.
Okay.
Not directly. Just because where we're at, you know, like like our church is a very conservative kind of upscale area kind of thing, and not to say that stuff's not going on there.
Sure.
But when you're in a conservative upscale area, people refuse to admit that they have problems.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And like everybody's looking like, okay, dude, you're whacked.
Right.
Like, I mean, your life is absolutely jacked up right now. Let us help you. Oh, no, we got it, kind of thing. And so oftentimes my preaching is like, I hit at those issues, and, you know, and it's hitting home. So you'll have some people come up and, you know, kind of like, oh, I have some family members kind of struggling with this kind of thing.
Oh, so it's like indirect.
Yeah.
So you do counsel with somebody, but it's not that person.
It's usually
struggling.
another family member kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your advice to them usually?
Well, I always start off with like, hey, you're called to love them.
Right.
You're called to love them.
Well, and it's like you said, they are going to love them.
Yeah.
They can't stop loving them.
Yes.
You know.
And I said, they're like, well, what if, you know, I'm like, you don't endorse anything that they do.
Right.
And you let them know, like, you don't believe this stuff. You believe it's a sin. You believe it's damaging to their life.
But see, a lot of that community would take that as hate.
Sure.
Right. They say, if you don't support my lifestyle, you hate me.
Yeah.
Right? You can't love me and not support my lifestyle.
You know my response is to those people? Because I have people say that.
Yeah.
I'm like, show me the evidence where I've hated you.
Right.
Because if anybody's shown you love in your life, it's me.
Right. But what if they said to you, okay, the evidence is that you don't accept me for who I am.
It's all words.
Right.
With them, it's all words. And so you have to like sift through the words.
Right.
Because they want to use language to manipulate you.
Right.
And when they know that language doesn't manipulate you, when somebody says like, you just hate me, I'm like, prove it.
Right.
That's what I'll say.
But what if they said that?
You put it back on. How have I hated you?
Yeah, and what if they say, by not accepting me because this is truly who I am and you're not accepting me?
Accepting you? How have I not accepted you?
Okay. Because you don't agree with my lifestyle.
Agreeing and accepting is not the same thing.
Okay.
You show me where I haven't accepted you, and I'll show you 100 instances where I have accepted you.
Okay. Yeah. I'm with you.
But but that's what people they are so manipulated by language, and these people, that's all they have is language. That's all they have is words, and so they want to make words, and so they'll say like hate and phobic and racist and all that kind of stuff, and I'm like, and I just look at those people and go, you know, that's not true,
right? Well, phobic is always the one I love because I'm like, I'm not scared of gay people. I'm not scared of trans people. Oh, you're transphobic.
Yeah.
Phobic means afraid of.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you must be afraid because you have an issue. No, I've carefully thought out the issue and I have my own stance on it. I'm not afraid.
Yes. Not fear. I'm standing here with you.
Exactly.
If I had a fear of you, I'd be running away.
Right, exactly. Right.
Like I have a fear of heights.
Yes.
I do not run to the edge. I run away from the edge.
Me too, man. Can't even handle it. Second story of a.
I'm claustrophobic. I see things on TV that are claustrophobic, and I switch the channel.
Yes.
Like that's just the way I am.
Me too.
You know.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I can't handle it.
And so that's a fear.
Yes.
We want to talk fears.
Right.
I am not afraid of.
Right. So why?
I look at you like you. I laugh at.
Yeah.
I mean, and because the fact is, it's like you're trying to manipulate me by this certain controlling the narrative,
right?
And I'm like, I don't live according to your narrative,
right?
You know?
Yeah, and that's their biggest problem.
Yeah,
Right, because always, even before the whole trans thing, you had just the LGB community that was very pushy in a sense. And I'm not saying every person in that group, but just as a whole, the entity was very much, we don't just want acceptance.
Yeah.
We want to be in your face.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the whole wedding cake, the gay marriage wedding cake thing.
Sure.
It's like you have 100 other bakeries.
They had to drive hours to get to this guy.
Correct. Yeah. And it was for a reason. It's purposely to throw this guy under the bus because you have an agenda to permit. Yeah. No, if you're being allowed to be a same-sex couple and there's plenty of bakeries that'll bake you. I mean, if I was a gay guy, I'd be like, hey, that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
I can do what I want to do, and I don't have to bother anybody else.
The thing is, you have to realize is that you have to wade through the words, and then you just have to keep pushing and showing. So when I was in college, and so I've been exposed to this whole lifestyle since I was like 16. I got a job at Miller's Outpost.
Oh, nice.
When I was 16 years old.
Okay.
And I was one of like 2 people who weren't gay.
Oh, really?
And
this is what, in the 80s?
This was 87.
Dang.
87.
Okay.
Oh yeah. There was a club in Lancaster where I grew up. It was called the Back Door. and I mistakenly referred to it as the Back Door Inn. And one of the workers who I didn't know anything, I was just totally naive, corrected me. Well, here's the cool thing. So besides the manager, who was just a jerk, but he was gay too.
Yeah.
He just hired all his gay friends. I got along with all of the workers there.
Right.
Because they just saw me as just being like kind of innocent and but sincere and authentic. And I was never judgmental. I was always friendly to them. I was like, hey, what's up, kind of thing. We had a great time.
Yeah. You
know, because we would laugh about things and not like we didn't joke about that kind of stuff. But we just, I mean, it was just fun. We had a good time. And then in college, I went and I worked at a hotel. And there was this one guy who was my trainer. And I didn't know it at the time. I knew he was gay. Because it was just obvious, and he wasn't like hiding anything. I wasn't like being judgmental or kind of thing. It was just obvious, and but we hit it off, like in the sense of like we just got along, working together, and joking around, and all that kind of stuff. And it was never ever about sexual orientation.
Right.
And that's kind of what I miss about the old gay cultures, because they never made it about their.
Yeah.
Like now everybody's like, I'm gay. And I'm like,
when they meet you, hi, my name is Bob. I'm gay.
I don't care about your. What is your sexual orientation have anything to do?
Yeah.
But I remember
it's become their identity.
I remember. After him finishing training me, he kind of disappeared for a while. And like they said, he was sick, and then he came back, and I discovered like he had AIDS.
Oh, wow.
But he was just the coolest guy.
Yeah.
And I just was always like, I just really liked him.
Yeah.
And we'd always talk.
Yeah.
And I always went out of my way when I saw him to like say something, hi to him, all that kind of stuff. And I remember like right before he died, he said, he just looked at me because he knew I was a Christian, because I was going to Christian college. I was going to Vanguard at that time.
Right.
And he just looked at me and said, he's like, you're different. And I'm like, I've heard that a lot. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you're a Christian, but you just treat me different.
Right.
And I'm like, but you're just a person who I really like.
Right. Isn't that sad that by you doing that, you're the anomaly?
Yeah.
Like that's the way all Christians should be.
Well, and it's a two-sided coin, really. There are a lot of Christians who are homophobic.
Right.
They are afraid of gay people, and and they say just stupid and hurtful stuff.
Yeah.
There are.
Yeah. Well, Westboro Baptist Church is a good example.
Yeah.
As an extreme example.
Yeah. That's the end of the pendulum right there. But there's also a lot of gay people who are way too hypersensitive.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter. They automatically think you hate them, and it's like,
right.
I don't
all you can say is I go to church.
Well,
and now they think, you hate me.
Well, I think it even goes even more. It's deeper. It's spiritual.
Yeah.
Because the fact is that the Bible says the light is in us, and the darkness hates the light. Right. Well, people who are in the darkness, like they sense the light. They sense the joy before we even say something. So they'll be hating on you, judging you before,
even unconsciously. Like they might not even realize
spiritually.
They're like, I just don't like that guy. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Some about him, I just don't like him. And then they find out years later you're a Christian. And it's like, oh, that's why.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I knew it.
Even though all the interactions were totally like above board and fine, and never any kind of, so it's a real, it's a fortunately, I think that the trans movement is collapsing.
Yeah.
It can't sustain itself.
Right.
Because it's just it's so dark and it's so demented.
Right.
So I especially if Trump is elected, I think you're going to see a lot of it, just like because Joe Biden is, I mean, not him, because he doesn't even have any clue what he's doing.
No.
But his administration has just been pumping this and pumping this and pumping this.
Right.
I mean, and I think if Harris wins, it's the end of our nation. It literally is.
It's going to be scary up to him.
She's so incompetent.
Yes.
She's so incompetent.
Yeah.
And she, so it's going to be the end of our nation. And,
Yeah.
and which I'm kind of thankful, because I know Kid Jesus is coming back.
Right.
Sooner than I expected.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that's kind of the bright side of it, I guess. But
yeah, I don't know.
If you can find one, but I mean, it's just so.
Well, if you read end times philosophy, end times theology, the U.S. is not mentioned whatsoever.
No.
It has to diminish. Right. And we're the world superpower right now, and so we have to diminish somehow, and so.
It's a bummer.
It's gonna be hard.
Are you sure we're not mentioning it? We might be mentioned like in the Apocrypha somewhere, maybe. maybe we're in there. Maybe we're in the Gospel of Thomas or something, or like
Oh my gosh, man.
Oh, man.
So a year and a half ago, I got the incredible privilege to go to Saudi Arabia, and I went. So I'm on the board of Enduring Word.
Okay.
Enduring Word is a free online commentary for every verse of the Bible by David Guzik. It's one of the top 20 websites, Christian websites in the world.
Okay.
By visits every month. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
So for the last 10 years or so, I've been on this board, and those three guys that are on the board are some of my best friends. And so, every couple of years we do a board retreat, somewhere pretty cool. Mm-hmm. One board retreat, we went to Front Sight, the gun place out in Pahrump, Las Vegas.
Oh, okay.
Where you learn how to shoot your guns, kind of thing. Because
Nice.
we'd all gotten guns during COVID, like every other red-blooded white guy did. Anyways, we went out and learned how to use our handguns. That was fun. But then we went. So a year and a half ago, we had wanted to do a hiking trip through Israel. Okay. Which I heard is amazing.
You must have took a wrong turn if you got to Saudi Arabia.
COVID shut everything down.
Oh, gotcha.
And so then this opportunity came up for us to do this Saudi trip, because they have to do tours, because Saudi Arabia is opening up. They're giving visas because they realize visitors, like tourists, is like, and so a lot of people think the original Sinai is in the Sinai Peninsula, but actually it's really in Saudi Arabia. Okay. And I know this because I've seen it with my eyes.
Like Mount Sinai, or
Mount Sinai. Okay. The rock that Moses broke for the water to come out. Yeah. Just so many things.
Did you get to see all that stuff?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Oh yeah. And
how do you know it was the one he broke? Is there like a staff mark, and there's like
no. Okay, so this rock is like at least 50 feet tall.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah, I wish I could pull up a picture.
I always picked like a little boulder.
No, I wish I could show you guys. I'll show you a picture here. Let me see if I can pull it up. Let me. So, anyways, it's 50 feet, and it splits down the middle, and all the rock, the red rock that's below it, shows that that water had for a very short amount of time. Because one of my friends was a geologist, an amateur geologist, and it's just like that. That was like, oh, okay, here it is.
Oh, dang. Dude.
And I know the people on the podcast can't see this, but
no, that's just really cool.
But I don't know if anybody's standing there at the bottom.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have something that was
I can.
What do they call that?
Yeah.
When someone's next to it so you can see the size.
I have. Oh, no. Yeah. So that's the bottom of the rock. Okay. That's David Guzik right there.
Oh wow.
And is that somebody in there? No. But he was sitting like right there.
Okay.
It's just crazy. It's crazy. But you could see where the water came out and run down, and it ran down into a pool where people could gather it. Right. And the way that the rocks had been weathered by the water was just like. And so it's funny that you mentioned the Apocrypha, because I was like, when you go and see real biblical sites. Yeah. So I think I've been in the Middle East everywhere except Egypt. Okay. And I was supposed to go to Egypt last fall, but the war broke out, and we were on a cruise ship, and we had to turn around and go to the Greek islands.
Oh, you were literally on your way?
We were 12 hours away from Israel when the war broke out. And we had to stop. And we were like out in the middle of the Mediterranean, heading towards Haifa, and the war broke out, and we had to stop. We were going to go to Egypt, and then some Jewish person got killed by an Egyptian person, so they took those off the thing too. So, but anyways, so I've been everywhere except Egypt and those areas. And it's just truly amazing. So, like when you've been to those areas, like, and you've seen Israel, you've seen the footsteps of Paul, like in Turkey area, you've seen Athens, you've seen Saudi Arabia. So, we're all the places where the Jewish people have been. Mm-hmm. It makes it so much easier to discern Scripture,
right?
Like what's like, yeah, this is real because I've been there.
See, I've heard that ever since when we first started going to Calvary. Yeah. The first time I ever saw Pastor Paul speak, his leg was in a cast.
Oh, because he was in India.
They were in India. I remember them talking about that, and that moved me. And then they were talking about their Israel trips, and people that have been to Israel say that, like, once you've seen, like, you never read the Bible the same way again, because you read that passage and you're like, I've seen that, I've been in that exact spot where this is happening. You
it's
know?
The ultimate pop-up book.
Yes, exactly. That's a good way.
You
to
have your
look
Bible open. The first place that became evident was when I went on a tour with Calvary Santa Maria in 2001, and we weren't even to Jerusalem yet. We were in the Valley of Jezreel. So we were up on, I don't want to say Mount Carmel, or I don't know, but we were up on somewhere, and you just saw the Valley of Jezreel, which is the Valley of Armageddon. It's where the Battle of Armageddon is going to be, and you see this vast thing. And back then, I mean, that's like 23 years ago. I wasn't even really into like end time stuff, but I just remember going, like, I mean, they were reading the Scripture. I'm looking at my Bible. I'm looking at this whole place, and I'm just going,
yeah,
I can see this. Wow. Yeah. And so when we were in Saudi Arabia and we were up on Mount Sinai, we saw the place where they sacrificed the golden calf, because it's not too far from there.
Okay.
It's actually this huge altar with all these rocks. It's just unreal.
Yeah.
We went to the Rephidim, which is the rock that split. Mm-hmm. We went to the Red Sea, and we saw the kind of the path where the Israelites took.
Okay.
We saw the well. So even before the Israelites, when Moses got sent out of Egypt because he got chased out because he murdered the Egyptian, and he got the water for what would become his wife and all her sisters, we went to that well.
Oh, crazy!
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, and all these things have been hidden for centuries.
Yeah.
From most people because they're Muslim controlled,
Right.
But now they're being opened up and they're being turned into tourist places, and you're just like,
it's like it. Like when you read a novel
or
something, right? It transports you to this magical land. Let's say you read like Lord of the Rings or something. Like you're seeing the Shire, and you're like in all these, and you're imagining what it would be like to be there.
Yeah.
But it's like, and there's so many people that call the Bible a work of fiction. But it's like you're not just in your mind. You are literally putting yourself in the place where these stories, quote unquote, took place.
Yeah.
If that doesn't open someone's eyes to the fact that at least see the Bible as a historical narrative. I mean, sure, maybe you don't believe everything that's in it, but you have to at least admit it is historically accurate, and these things really happened.
When you pull up this Mount Sinai, and Mount Sinai is in this mountain range called Jabal Maqla, and so it's all these red mountains, right? When you pull up to Mount Sinai, you see the black tips, where the fire of the Lord had come down. And my my rock friend who was with us, he's a pastor. He was going to be a geologist, but God called him ministry. He says you can look at those rocks and tell that there was a flash fire on there, which means is that something so hot touched it and changed this whole complex. Wow. And he's like, it's not like it's like this is black rock up here and this is red rock right here, like this, like you could see like the, and that's after years of like all the weather and all the rain and all that kind of stuff has hit that place.
It's still there.
It's still there. Wow. And it's just unreal. Unreal.
Yeah.
It's the greatest.
Yeah.
So
someday I got to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I've yet to be out of the country ever, so still to this day, I'm racking up some states. That's about as far as I'm getting. I went to Florida a couple years ago.
Oh, there you go.
It's probably the farthest I've ever been.
There you go.
And it was in July.
Oh.
So I mean, that's kind of like the Middle East, right? I mean, you know.
I remember being in Israel and it was 121 degrees at Bet Shan.
Eesh.
Yeah, or Bet Shan, or however they pronounce it. And I was just like, oh man,
Yeah.
this is stinking hot.
Yeah. But you just get used to it over there, I guess, and you grow up in that.
Yeah, nobody was out.
But like, it never gets cold over there, right? Like, there's no such thing as cold. Like, it's always at least like in the 70s or 80s.
It's pretty temperate.
Yeah.
It's pretty temperate.
I'm sure there's days where it's way hotter than normal, but like, I don't think they ever get to the point.
Well, there's
like,
places that are hotter. I don't think Jerusalem gets as hot as Bet Shan, because Jerusalem's 1,300 feet above sea level. But this was more, you know, inland.
Yeah.
You know. Wow. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. I can't remember where we started to get to. I usually jot down notes so I can go back, and I haven't been. I've been just listening to what you're saying.
Well, you brought up the Apocrypha, so I'm like, okay,
I did bring up the Apocrypha.
I got to tell you about my time in Saudi Arabia. It's just it's going to be a new tourist hotspot.
Okay. Wow.
It's already exploding.
You're pioneering it. You're trend setting it.
Yeah, we were one of the first tours there. So.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And that's with David Gusick. You go with him?
Well, it was the four of us.
Okay.
It was our board, but we took a tour, interestingly, from, so there's this legendary video of this one guy, and I can't remember his name, but he discovered the Ark up in Turkey. Okay. Well, he was like the Christian Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Okay.
I know who you're talking. I forgot his name too.
Well,
but I know who you're
he
talking
passed away, and this guy took over for him. This guy's name's Andrew.
Okay.
And so Andrew runs the Ark exhibit up in Turkey, and so you can go visit that certain times of year when there's no snow.
Like he actually takes tours up to see the actual Ark?
No, that's a whole exhibit, all that kind of stuff. I know very little about it because I'm just like.
Because you think if they would actually, they've seen the actual Ark, think that would be on TV.
Yeah. Well, they don't. Problem with these Muslim places, they don't let you places like that,
right?
Because they don't want any evidence.
They don't want to verify the scriptures.
Yeah. So this guy, when to raise money for his ministry in the fall and in the spring, when it's the best times to go to Saudi Arabia, he'll lead tours. And so we were one of his first tours. And I don't want to say first tours, but he's getting really busy now.
Yeah. And he should kick down a little money to you for helping him with that.
I have pastor friends who want me to take their tours, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love it. I can't wait to go back. I think eventually we're gonna. In fact, I have a friend, my rock guy. He's gonna lead a tour in January of pastors.
Okay.
Because they do these tours that kind of seasoned pastors, and then the pastors come back and bring groups kind of things.
Yeah. And now when you do that, do you just go? Does Jen or the kids ever go with you?
No. Okay. Well, now that the kids are getting older, Jen will end up being able to go. But she's never gone.
She wants to go. She just hasn't been.
There's some things that she wants to go on, and there's some things I don't think she's interested in going to Saudi Arabia.
Okay. No.
At all.
But she's been to Israel.
She's been to Israel, but that was 2001. That's the last time I've been there. I haven't taken our church on a trip to Israel. And I haven't,
Yeah.
So I'm not a real big, kind of Christian tourism kind of thing.
Yeah. I tripped out, man. The other day I was this young girl at work at the library. I was training her because she's brand new. She's been there a couple of weeks, and I got to talking to her, and she said something about how she lived in Israel for like 6 months or something, or maybe even a couple of years. I don't remember how long it was. And I said, what brought that about? She goes, my neighbor, is part of this ministry, and I got and she told me the whole story. And she says something about Bethel, something. I said, you talking about Stretchberry? She goes, you know him? I said, well, yeah, I've gone to Calvary for years. And, it's just so funny, like a small world. And she's young. She's like 25,
Does she work
26.
for one of the hostels or something like that?
I don't know. I didn't get the whole story. She's young, dude. She's like 20, in her mid-20s. She's like my daughter's age, my oldest daughter's age.
Huh.
So
she's neighbors with Stretch?
I guess. That's what she was telling me.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, just a small world, It's just like of all the tours that go to Israel, the only one I know. Like I couldn't name drop anybody else except his thing,
so
and that's just because I've heard him speak so many times at Calvary.
That's so funny.
Yeah, kind of a trip, but yeah, someday, man, I got it.
You should.
Yeah.
Get your kids out of the house. It'll be a lot easier.
Yeah, we're almost there. youngest is 14, so, you know.
My youngest is 15, so I know I got 3 more years of high school.
Your youngest is 15?
Yeah.
Okay.
3 more years of high school. I got a senior this year and a sophomore.
Okay.
But my wife's not teaching anymore, and so that's going to free us up a lot too. Just because last couple of years, besides the COVID years, she worked part time, but the last 10 years she's been teaching. So this will be the first time that she's just really home.
Right.
That's non-COVID years in a long time.
She's going to love it.
And the kids are grown, because before, when she was home, the kids were all like,
yeah. She probably wished she wasn't home. She's like, man, this is worse.
Yeah,
I'd rather be at work.
Well, 4 kids with a 5.5 year age span.
Yeah.
That's really,
Yeah, you guys had them all close.
3 in diapers at one time.
Oh my gosh, dude, that's insane.
It was insane.
What was the thought process behind that?
It's just the way it worked out, man. It was just, we don't even.
You know how they're made, right?
Yeah. Well, okay, so funny story. It took us 6.5 years after getting married to have children, and we had a lot of people go like, "When are you gonna have kids?"
Oh, had you been trying for that long?
Okay. Here, I always made a joke about it because the fact is, like, we weren't trying to have kids. We weren't not trying to have kids. We weren't like we were indifferent. Like, a lot of people are like, "Okay, we're gonna wait 2 years, then we're gonna have kids." And I'm like,
yeah, but so like no birth control though, like nothing.
No,
And it took 6 years.
So, 6 years.
Wow.
But the funny thing is, people are like, "When are you gonna have kids?" I'm like, "Well, we're practicing." I was always like, because I always think that's like an insensitive question when people ask.
Yeah.
Like we have any control over it,
right? Yeah.
And
well, I think their question is more like, are you guys trying to prevent it?
It's never asked that way.
Right.
It's always like, and then her mom was just starting to make kind of little comments.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that we waited, because now all of our kids' cousins are all right around the same age.
Yeah. And they're all pretty close.
Ours are kind of at the upper end, but they're all really close in age,
right.
And they're close cousins.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm looking forward to. We're already planning forward to empty nest.
Yeah.
Empty nest thing. So it's cool.
See, I kind of am too, and not like that I don't love my kids or want them at home and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like they're already getting to the age where they don't really care about me anyway. So it's kind of like, nobody ever wants to do anything with dad anyway. It's like I'm finding myself spending a lot of time alone doing my own stuff, because Bethany works from home.
Does she?
And she'll be doing that. Like even this morning is a good example. Once I had everything ready for this, I'm like, I got a couple hours.
Yeah.
I was like, Asher's over here playing a video game, and I tried to even say to him, well, hey, what about that new game you got? Oh, this one. I said, yeah, you want to play it together? He goes, no, I'm playing this one right now. Totally. Okay, so you don't want to play with me. And then my 16-year-old, she's just like talking to her friends or whatever, wants nothing to do with me, My 22-year-old is still sleeping at that time, so he's like, and then Laura's not here, of course. But, so I just kind of cherish the moments, like tonight we're gonna have all 4 of them here, and we're gonna have dinner, and then we're gonna play games, and those are the times that I like, because we play board games, we laugh, we have a good time doing that kind of stuff. But the days of like my kids waking up in the morning and coming try to find me, like, Dad, what do you want to do today? Like, that's long gone. Like, it's gone, and it's probably never coming back.
Walking into the room like, get your butt out of bed.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Or they get up and it's just like, I'm doing my own thing, Dad. I have my day planned out today, and it doesn't involve you.
Yeah, that's
like,
right.
It's kind of hurts, but at the same time, it's like, oh, well, they're getting older.
I'm at the point right now where because I've been a parent for 21 years, I'm like, if their plans don't involve me, that means I have free time.
Yeah, it's kind of
I'm like, I've earned that.
Yeah.
Even when I was coming over here to do this podcast, my kids are laughing at me like, "Oh, you're gonna go have a podcast with your friend?" Yeah. I'm like, hey, my genre, that's cool, man.
That's
my
right.
age, that's cool. I'm gonna do a podcast, and my kids are just all bashing on me. But they're
funny.
like hopping in the car with my wife to go play pickleball as I was leaving, kind of thing. It was kind of funny.
Yeah,
it's
funny because I've had people on here too, where their teenage kids are all excited about it.
Yeah.
Oh, my dad was on a podcast, and they're like spreading it around to all their friends.
They may say that to all their friends, but they're never going to say that to me.
That'll be what's funny if I start getting like emails and stuff from teenagers like, oh, I know Chuck's daughter, and
totally.
She told me to watch it or to listen to this or whatever.
Totally.
So awesome.
It's so funny, man. Yeah. My kids are that age, and they're so much like my wife and I. Like, we like to give people hard times and tease people, but now they're at the age where they do that to us.
Right.
And my wife thought it was funny when they would do it with me.
Yeah.
But now my daughters are really starting to give it to my wife. And
that's a whole different story.
oh, it's like and she's not used to it. She can handle it, but she's not used to it. But where she gets really mad is when I'm sitting in the background laughing. She's like, "Why aren't you taking my side?" I'm like, "I'm enjoying this, man." I'm like, "Come on." Like,
yeah, you're like, for years it was me.
You're not gonna take my side. I'm like, I'm not taking anybody's side, but I'm enjoying this because it's not me.
Oh my gosh, man.
It's and teenage girls, man,
they can be brutal.
If I have a phobia, I guess I get add teenage girls.
They're
just
yeah.
They can be so cruel.
It's a whole different thing. Like people that only have one gender of children, there's a whole side of parenting that they're missing.
Oh, I know.
And that's if they're all boys or all girls. Like they're missing
a
whole element because we know that as you probably know too.
Yeah.
Totally different, man. I mean, different stages of life are different for girls and boys. It's all different.
My brother-in-law has all girls. He gravitates towards my boys.
Yeah.
And the other boys just because, he gets to... He knows everything about girls. He knows he's all up on everything.
Yeah.
But he gravitates... At the family parties, he'll often gravitate towards the boys.
Right. So funny,
They'll be playing... In the pool, they'll be playing basketball or volleyball or that kind of stuff, so...
Yeah.
I got two, so I'm like, I gravitate away from them.
Yeah.
And they don't want me near them anyways. So
right, yeah.
I'm just like...
How old are your daughters are how old now?
19 and 15.
Okay. Nice.
It's fun. I've absolutely loved being parents of teenagers.
Yeah.
The toddler thing, that was... Well, okay, so my two oldest are special needs. I have... My son's autistic. He's high functioning, but he's on the spectrum as autistic. And then my daughter has mild cerebral palsy. So
really?
It just basically means that she operates in slow motion.
Okay.
And so as toddlers with not full diagnosis and it was really hard.
Like that.
Really, really hard. And it was hard watching them grow up because like they were different.
Right.
Different doesn't matter how inclusive people are. If you're different,
people notice.
And so you had to go through those struggles, and it took a lot more with them than my two youngest which are normal.
Okay.
According to society's standards.
Yeah, use that word loosely, right?
Yes. Yeah. And so, but as they became teenagers, it became a lot easier. Especially when my daughter got her license, and they both started working jobs, and it just became a lot easier. But as the toddler and the elementary years were just so hands-on, so hard, such much hard work.
Right. Yeah, Caleb worked at Cups and Crumbs, huh?
Yeah.
The one right there by...
So he started out in Old Orchid.
Oh, he did? Okay.
And then he transferred over to the new one.
Yeah, that's the one I saw, man.
On Miller's, yeah. And so,
he
by the end, he was kind of like, he quit before the whole place imploded.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
I know, I miss it.
It's one of the only places in town that sells this kind of chai.
Yeah.
I was bummed out.
Yeah. They had good food, too.
And their sandwiches were, dude, that Henny Penny, whoo-wee! Or that jalapeno one, I forgot what it was called. That one was good, too.
I miss, like, a lot of their bakery items there. I used to stop on the way to work and get breakfast. Like, they have a great breakfast sandwich on a bagel.
Oh, really?
So good.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it was just so good.
Yeah.
I miss it.
Yeah.
But he was done with it by the time he quit.
Okay.
He was just done.
He just didn't want to do it anymore.
It was just like he was dishwasher, and this one wasn't run, or was it as busy as the one in Old Orchid? It wasn't run like it.
Right.
So
totally different.
Yeah.
Much smaller.
Yeah. And so it was boring a lot.
Yeah. I only went to that one as much because it was right by the library.
Yeah.
So I can zip over there for lunch. I can meet somebody there. It was easy to go to Orchid.
Yeah.
Bethany and I used to go to Orchid.
When he worked at the Old Orchid one, he was never bored. Never. It was just always like Mach 3 with his hair on fire kind of thing. This one was the polar opposite.
Okay.
There would be busy times.
Is there a reason why they transferred him there? Is that just because they opened the new one?
Because we lived right by there.
Oh, so he thought I can just walk over here, ride my bike or whatever.
Well, we would drop him off and then he would walk home.
Okay.
So, yeah. And it was just easier. Because we were driving over to Old Orchid because he doesn't have his license even today.
Okay.
And so he was... we would have to drive him to Old Orchid, then we have to go pick him up, and it was just like...
Yeah, that's a trek.
So, yeah. But part of me wishes we would have kept him over there just because it was a better... Yeah. It was a better place.
Yeah. Well, he would have had to quit eventually anyway.
He was working for the church as a janitor by that time. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that what he's still doing now?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, he loves it. He's a church rat, man. He's like he would be there 24/7 if he could.
Nice. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And he sings worship.
Yes.
Wow. That's awesome, man.
It is awesome. It's pretty great.
Yeah. Definitely gotta check that
So
out.
I've seen your kids serve the Lord and just just find themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's just it's I love parenting.
Do your kids ever come to you with faith crises and like questions of faith and Dad, I don't know if I believe this anymore or anything like that?
You know, not okay. So my daughter went to Vanguard, which is a Christian university.
You say went to? She's already graduated.
No.
Back home,
Last year she went there. She's going back there again. I mean, she's still
She's home for the summer.
Yeah, she's home.
Okay.
And so there was, I would say, probably almost weekly phone calls with her, calling me to talk about spiritual stuff.
Okay.
Because it was her first exposure to charismatics.
Oh, really?
And Pentecostals. Really? Yeah. Just because.
Don't you consider yourself to be? I thought you used to say that when you were pastoring Calvary. You always used to say, "I consider myself a Pentecostal preacher."
Yes, but there's not a. I mean, we don't do a lot of the speaking in tongues and manifestation of the gifts and all that kind of stuff at our church. And, and so she went off to Vanguard, and you know she just saw she has a real gift of discernment.
Yes,
and so
which nobody likes that gift.
Yeah, so
they hate that one.
She saw a lot of weird stuff, and a lot of people just acting out in the flesh.
Right.
And so she would call me, like, Dad, you know, like, in fact, they were having like like not an all night, but like a till midnight or something like that, or till 10 o'clock. Like it was like a 3-hour worship service. And one of the worship leaders down at Vanguard was actually on either America's Got Talent or The Voice or something like that, and got like second place or something like that. So he's really, really, he's really good. And I've heard him. He's really good.
Okay.
And so when they do worship at Vanguard, it's like, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Like it's really good worship. And so, but they would have these 3-hour worship services and they'd have people praying. And she's like, Dad, I was walking over to the chapel and I was talking with this one girl, and we're talking about either coffees or shopping or something like that, because there was a distance from the dorm to the chapel.
Right.
And she's like, and she's, you know, like bubbly, just kind of talking. And, and she's like, we get in there and like, I'm starting to kind of like get into worship, and it's like not 30 seconds. And this girl's like in this trance, like speaking in tongues kind of thing. She's like, Dad, that doesn't, we were just talking about shopping.
She's like, what was in that coffee?
I know. And she's like, it just doesn't seem. I'm like, babe, it's not right.
Yeah.
It's like you just can't. It's not a switch you can flip on.
No.
Like that. And so she was just like, it just didn't seem right. I'm like, hey, that's good.
Yes.
And
she's
so,
like, because it's not, honey.
Yeah. So whenever she had questions up, and she would talk about stuff in her classes, or she would see stuff at chapels or special events and stuff like that. She would, or she would hear there. So there would be a lot of kind of questionable women teachers. Come through. Yeah. Not so much in the chapels. I don't think they had a lot of those, but like when they had these all night things, they would have, certain, like, I don't want to call it a spiritual emphasis week, but each semester they had like a, spiritual revival kind of week. And one night they would always pull in, like some female evangelist or something like that. Yeah. And they were so off. Like, not... Like biblically, you mean? Not because that they were women. Right. Because my daughter's like, okay, I understand. They ordain women here. That's their thing and all that kind of stuff. Sure. And I mean, I'm not going to get into like egalitarianism or complementarianism. You really get canceled over that. No, I'm not going to get into that. Like, hey, whatever floats your boat. It was never about that. Right. She was never judgmental against women because she'd heard enough of it there already. But they were so off in their theology, off in their orthopraxy, like how they operated.
Yeah.
Like so Allie's alarms are just going, you know. So I remember one time she literally, I go to bed like at 9:30,
right.
and like it's like 9:15, and she's calling me. She's like, Dad, I'm at this chapel thing, and this woman's kind of going off.
She called you from the chapel?
Well, she called me. She walked outside.
Oh, okay.
And she called me. She's like, I just have to talk to you about this right now. And I'm like, oh yeah, you know, kind of thing. I'm like,
yeah.
But I mean, each time the feeling that she had was like she was right on.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of
got to make you feel good.
So yeah, so with her, I've had lots of discussions. With my middle child, I've had different types of discussions, but it's more like, you know, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that, and I'm able to, or he has questions about like things about the Bible, so he'll ask me.
Right. Like questioning, like in a what's the word? Like in a questioning, almost like in a, I hate to say a bad way because I don't think there's any bad way to question, but like almost like doubting certain things.
You know, for him it wasn't necessarily doubt; it was just curious. Mm-hmm. He's like, what about this? Like he had like a question, like he saw something, heard something. He's like, what about this?
Right.
And it was never like in the sense of like it was going to impair him. It was more in the sense of like, wait a second here, you know, explain this to me. I'm curious, kind of thing. And so, you know, my wife and I have had great opportunities to be able to do that. And so, with my oldest son, it's been more of a mentoring thing.
Okay.
So it's me having spiritual discussions, usually lectures, in the car about like what it means to do ministry, especially as a worship pastor, and like how he needs to, you know, I always tell him, you know, because I try to stay away from cliches, but I always tell him, like, you know, your worship is unto the Lord. Your worship is not unto the crowd.
Right.
Your worship, you were there to lead people into the presence of God.
Right.
And so it's not about the people. It's not even about those songs you're singing. It's about, is the presence of God there. So I've had lots of coaching, you know, in drives, talking to him about that and just telling him, like, this is, you know, and being able to, like, lay out my expectations, but in a conversational, like, just more talking about it. So he asked questions about ministry. He was always asking me about songs.
Yeah,
and
because that's where he's at. That's his thing right now. So
and a couple of years ago we were stuck in traffic. It's when they were doing all that construction on the 101 between Santa Barbara and Ventura.
Oh yeah,
they were all down to like So we were coming home from Oxnard one night, and it took us forever to get through Carp. It was just crazy.
Yeah, and
so my third child, Toby, gets in a conversation with Caleb, and he says, like, you can't recognize these songs. And Caleb's like, yeah, I can. And so Toby picks up a list on Apple Music, connects his phone or somebody's phone to the stereo system on the car, and he finds the top 50 Christian worship songs.
Okay, to see if he'd know them, like, right away.
And so while we're waiting in traffic, he plays this Name That Tune. Basically, the game.
Right.
You remember that game where I can name that song, and you know, it never got past 3 notes.
Wow.
Notes on a song. And Caleb rattled off not only what song it was, but what the he named the song, and he named the author of the song.
Yeah, see, that's
the person who sings it. I mean, we were just sitting there going, and it, you know, it wasn't just like 5 songs. It was like 30 songs.
But he's the one that's on the spectrum, right? Mm-hmm. See, and that's what I find fascinating.
Yeah, it's just like a superpower.
It is and I've said that. Yeah. I feel like, there's obviously some disadvantages to that, but there are some things that people on the spectrum can do that I can't. Yeah. Right, that they are much better than me at. Yeah. You know,
and he can. Yeah, I mean, he knows every worship song.
That's so cool, man.
I always laugh at him because he's like our live stream junkie. He probably follows like 30 churches as live streams.
Oh, really?
And he'll go back and he'll watch like all these different churches.
He just loves it.
And he doesn't listen to the teaching.
Oh, it's just the music.
Just the worship. He knows like how every church, like all over the country. There are some churches like, hey, you need to like cut them off your favorite list. They're not good.
Yeah.
They're not good. Like he was like, it was some. I mean, Catholic services as a whole are just different. And
Catholics have the best worship teams. I mean, their worship music.
Well, it wasn't. But this was some weird flavor of a Catholic church.
Okay.
Like I had never like heard her experience, and he was like watching their live stream. I'm like, dude, you need to like.
You ever seen any videos of those inner city, some of those inner city churches where they have like the hip hop worship? Dude, they got a DJ up there with the scratch table. They got the whole deal, man, and they're just rapping about Jesus.
I went to a black church one Sunday night in college, and the worship part was at least 90 minutes long, and I don't think that they played more than 5 to 7 worship songs in that 90 minutes.
They were just long songs.
They just kept. At one point, people were going crazy and singing the song, and it was just the bass player going, and it was just like, and they were just singing the same songs over and over and over, and like, it was a Sunday night service, and the place was packed.
That people were into it.
Yeah, and it was like downtown LA, like it was like in the hood.
Nice.
Like absolute, like. Just, I mean, you look, still the houses all around. You're like, man, this is like this.
What brought you there? Did you have a friend that invited you or something? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was an experience, man. It was I felt like I had a workout just after the worship service, and then the pastor got up and preached, it was crazy.
Wow. See, I've never actually been to something like that. I've seen that before.
That was live, and it was crazy.
Yeah, I bet.
My friend, he's like, hey, you gotta go to this. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, what am I getting into? I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm like getting on this van with all these people going over to this church. And I'm just like with my friend. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And I grew up in enough Pentecostal churches to like, I'm used to long services, but that one was
a little too long even for you, huh?
That one took the cake, man. I'm pretty sure that was just like I'm pretty sure they cut it short because there was a bunch of white people in the sanctuary.
Yeah.
Too, so
they're like, hey, what's going on? This is not right.
At one point, I looked at my friend. I'm like, where are we going to eat after this? I'm hungry. I'm like seriously like worked up an appetite here.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It was fun though.
Yeah.
I do not regret the experience whatsoever.
Okay. Very cool.
Because those people were worshiping.
Yeah.
They were worshiping. It was true.
Yeah.
It was true worship. It wasn't just, I mean, people weren't out in the aisles doing crazy stuff. The worship team wasn't like bouncing all over the place. Like it was just straightforward. And then the preacher, he was straightforward, good teacher. I mean, he was a black preacher. And so it was fun, but he was solid too.
Okay. But I want to get back to a little bit of this, of the worship. Cause this is something I struggle with. I'll just be totally upfront with it. I struggle with kind of what you were saying a minute ago about like a genuine worship versus a man-centered, manufactured kind of humanistic worship. And you obviously have your viewpoints on what the difference is, and because you might say, well, I don't see this as genuine worship, where someone who's involved in that would say, what are you talking about? This is the only way I connect to God. This is my way to connect to God. Who are you to tell me? You know what I'm saying? So like you get all, and then that,
let me tell you how many ways I can tell you. let me tell you why.
Yeah. So I mean, how do you judge that in a sense?
Okay, so worship is the one area, not the one area, but it's the area most in the church that is susceptible to being secular and like the world. I mean, I know there's church services and they do other things, but worship, because you have those temptations. You're up on a pedestal already because you're up on stage.
Right.
You have talent, and
we hope.
Well,
I've seen some that don't.
No, well, yeah, that's true. But I mean, if they don't, then there's nobody in the audience. I'm talking about for those people who have large audiences.
Oh, gotcha.
And music does something. It moves people.
Yeah,
it really does move people.
Totally.
I watch. I know a lot of people ridicule the worship movement today, and they say it's all emotion, and I get that. But you know what I also say? The only way that you're going to reach today's generation is through worship. Because they're not interested, because they haven't been exposed to good teaching.
Right.
But the only way that you're going to reach the young generation is with worship.
Okay.
And so it takes a mature worship leader who has good accountability, who can lead these young people into worship. And so to go back to your question, it's very susceptible to just the secularism, because you can almost become like a rock star.
Yes. So
people treat it like a concert.
Okay, but you're saying that's from the perspective of the person who's leading the worship, right?
Well, no. What I'm saying though is, I mean, it's both. I mean, because the temptation is for the worship leader to kind of be like the band. Whenever I hear band, I'm like, yeah, that's a red flag for me.
Right.
Okay, because worship leaders, man, I mean, worship people, they want to be in a band.
Yeah.
Because most of the people started pling music because it was cool.
Yeah.
And they wanted to be part of a band.
Well, they're just musicians.
And so
in general,
so
right?
when they get to be a part of, I've seen so many worship teams. That's why I always refer to them as teams. Mm-hmm. They develop this band mentality, and they become aloof, and they become like, they kind of sequester themselves from, and not that they act like they're better, but they just, they've found their little clique kind of thing.
Well, if you see a worship leader who has a guitar solo in the middle of the song, you're kind of like, is that for you or for Jesus? I don't know.
Exactly. And so you have that temptation, and oftentimes, like, the worship can become like a concert, and people love being at concerts. I went to the Journey concert at the Mid-State Fair a year ago. Oh,
and minus Steve Perry, though.
I know.
Although I heard the new guy sounds just like him.
He does.
Yeah, he doesn't look anything like him, but sounds just
He's
like
Filipino.
Right.
And they're awesome.
Yeah.
And there was all different generations there. There was mostly older people, but there was younger people there because they got turned on to Journey because of Glee.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so we had these obnoxious teenagers who would not shut up.
Oh boy.
The whole concert. It's like I literally could not hear the music because they were talking so loud.
Oh,
I had to finally get on. Their parents tried to come at me, and I'm like,
oh really?
Don't. And so, anyways, it was. So people like being at concerts.
Yeah.
So you have people who like being in bands. You have people who like being in concerts. Right there already is you have the temptation to take it totally make it everything about except Jesus.
Right.
But yeah, you can justify like, well, this is kind of thing.
Yeah, it's just Jesus music. It's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have to, as a leader of a church, as a pastor, speaking as a pastor, you have to constantly discern about that, and you have to be willing to speak into the worship leader's heart, and you have to be willing to speak directly to the congregation too.
Have you ever had to call out any of your worship leaders over the years and say,
Oh yeah.
Okay.
The worst worship that we ever had at the Village Chapel was a band where everybody except the leader had been a recording artist somehow.
Oh,
whether singing or playing on albums, like everybody.
You made the big times, man.
But it was horrible because they were all about themselves, and they were all about, oh, this is how talented we are, and we're all together kind of thing. And I'm like, this is horrible.
Okay. The music was good, but you felt like the heart behind it. Oh no, the music was not good.
That's the thing. Is it's like you have all the parts. This should be amazing, and it wasn't because they were all about themselves.
Okay.
And not in a selfish way, like everybody focus on me. But the fact is like they weren't interested in leading the people in the church into worship.
Okay.
They were interested about sounding good as a band. Yeah. And they didn't.
So did you just literally just ask them not to do it anymore?
God took care of it.
Were they members of your church?
Yeah.
Oh, they were. Okay.
Yeah. No, none of. I've never ever had hired people
like recruit outside of Okay.
Nope. You have to be part of our church, and you have to show some faithfulness before we throw you up there.
Right.
And so. That was the worst ever. Some of the best that we've had have been from just not good worship leaders, but it was just so pure that the spirit was just there.
Right.
I mean, so my son, he's learning how to sing. Well, when he first started singing, he was just flat. And because he's to play guitar and sing at the same time is hard. So a lot of times people just want to learn how to play, and then they start to sing. Well, he had to jump in and start because we had a worship leader who left. He had to jump in and start doing a lot sooner part. So our church had to learn with him.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of Sundays that were very just precious.
Yeah.
Because people saw his heart and they filled in the gaps.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes when there's a crisis, people step up with a solution. And so because he was learning and people were being patient, they loved his heart. It's actually increased our worship of our church. Mm-hmm. And it's been awesome. Even though aesthetically and sound wise, it was painful to the ears. But we were, but the thing is like we're a church out in the middle of Lompoc and Mission Hills, and it's like you don't have a lot of resources to draw from. Right. And we couldn't get anybody. Like we tried to bring like worship leaders in and like pay them well, and they would come maybe once and never want to come back again.
Why?
Just
if it's a paid gig, you figure...
It was the drive.
Oh,
because everybody said, "Oh man, we love your people. They love to worship."
Okay.
So it wasn't even like, "Oh, there was a dead congregation."
Right.
It was just like they just didn't. It was worship leaders are kind of finicky.
Yeah.
They don't like waking up early.
Yeah.
They don't like.
Well, I mean, I struggle even with that title.
Worship leader?
Yeah. I mean, I know what it means. I don't struggle with the definition or understanding what it is. I struggle to see where that fits in Scripture.
Well, if you look at it, I mean, this is perfect. In 2 Chronicles, First Chronicles and then 2 Chronicles, you look at David. David set aside worship leaders.
Okay.
In the temple to lead the songs of the Levites. Okay. And if you look at, I think if it's either Hezekiah or somebody after Hezekiah. I was just reading 2 Chronicles where because when they start to go through the good and bad kings, all that kind of stuff, the bad kings actually shut down the temple and put idols in there and all that kind of stuff. And then when they came back and they cleaned the temple, and I'm trying to remember, it wasn't Hezekiah.
It's easy to get all those weird names confused.
I know. I'm trying to remember, but they literally it says that he reestablished the worship leaders.
Interesting. Okay, I'm gonna have to look into that then.
Yeah. And so it's, I mean, people have issues with it, but it's like it's well established over time, and it's like there were Levites, because there was thousands of Levites that would literally come in, and that was their jobs. They were song leaders.
Yeah, but you would agree that like what we would call a service or whatever, it was different then than it is now. Obviously.
I would but reading about those kings and seeing what they did in the services. I mean, the scripture was read and the priests explained it, and there was singing.
Okay,
So I'm much more of a kind of a traditionalist. Like, Israel did some faction. It probably doesn't sound or maybe look exactly like ours today, but ours is just the modern day maturation of that.
Yeah.
And so, when Ezra, you think of it as when Nehemiah rebuilt the walls, and Ezra came back to Israel, and they actually created, because the temple was destroyed. So they had just put the wall up. So, Israel still destroyed, so they didn't have a temple, but they met where the temple area was, and it says that they built wooden platforms. And it says that Ezra read the scripture for like 3 straight hours.
From the platform?
From the platform.
So it's almost like a stage.
And it says that people like stood the whole time. And that's why Russian Orthodox people, they stand on their services, they don't sit. Okay. It says that they just wept for 3 hours, and I'm sitting there going,
yeah.
But you look at and even in the synagogue model with Israel, they sent Levites to each city, and the Levites were supposed to be given lands around these cities, and their whole purpose of these cities was to teach the law. So they would read the scripture, and then they would explain it to them. Of course, in their legalistic. We know more of the legalistic Pharisaic model, which was, but they, but back then that's, and then people would come to the temple yearly for at least for three of the 6 feasts, So I do see some model of that,
right,
from the past,
right. But back to what you were saying. So first of all, that's really cool, because I'm gonna look into that, because that's something that I didn't know that, so I'm gonna have to look into that. But like back to like, as a pastor, you obviously, like you said, you have to sometimes call out a worship leader, because you're the leader of all the other ministries in a sense. So you have to make sure that they're all in accordance with the way things are supposed to be running. Obviously, if you got some showboat guy up there who's doing, you got to say, hey man, you got to tone it down. This is about the Lord. It's not about you. Yeah. But like, do you ever, whenever you look at your congregation, do you see anybody in your congregation that you might feel like, I don't know what that guy's doing out there. Why is he doing that? Why is he saying that? Why is he, or whatever it may be? And if you do see that, do you ever think you should say something, or you're just kind of like, oh, he just does what he does. That's just his deal.
Well, okay. So the great thing about our congregation is that, we're not charismatic in our behavior.
Yeah.
We stand for like half the songs, and some people raise their hands, and people just sing. And so if somebody's doing something weird, they stick out.
Right.
But they stick out like a sore thumb.
But would you ask them to stop sticking out like a sore thumb?
If they're causing a disruption, usually one of the ushers will
escort them out.
We'll simply just tell them, like,
Yeah.
But what we've often found is, like, we've had a few weirdos, and then they all of a sudden, weirdos thrive amongst other weirdos.
True.
So when you get these weirdos and they're kind of acting out in a very, like, mellow atmosphere, it pretty soon, like, they just self-monitor.
So because they feel weird. I mean,
like, I remember one time somebody brought a tambourine to church, and it just was like, and they were bad at it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing worse. I'm just going to tell you right now, there's nothing worse than somebody who has a tambourine, which is already, like, in the wrong context, is already annoying.
Yes.
But you add the fact that they have no rhythm.
Ugh.
Terrible. In my experience, and I've been doing this full time for 30 years.
Yeah.
There's nothing more, and it's only happened a couple times at our church. But see, that's the thing, is, like, when you have a very consistent, like, atmosphere and culture, like, that kind of stuff, like, it kind of self-regulates itself.
Right.
I only a couple times I've had to talk to people, but it's like, but most of the time it just regulates itself.
Okay.
Yeah. And because we're not a large church.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I saw a video one time of, I don't know where the church was. It's not like it's somebody I knew, but it was just a small clip, but it showed them playing a song, and the lady was up there singing or whatever. Yeah. And she literally just stopped everybody. Yeah. Because the tambourine player was so off. She just goes, wait, everybody stop for a second. And then the music just stops. And she looks over the guy, she goes, what are you doing?
I love it.
And he's like, what? She's like, if you can't play that thing on key or on tempo or whatever, then just stop, because you're throwing everybody off.
Was it like a black chick?
Yes, it was. It was. It was hilarious. And she must have been like in her 80s.
Oh, totally.
She was an older lady, so
and so she was respected.
Yeah.
At least kind of thing.
Yeah, and then they started playing music again, and you didn't hear the tambourine anymore. So I think he just opted to, like, all right, I'm not getting
persecuted anymore.
Yeah, I'm not gonna try this again.
I called out in front of the whole church.
Yeah, it was funny, man. But yeah, I mean, you bring up the point of distraction, right?
Yeah.
That's the point. Like, I feel like if people want to worship however they want.
Yeah.
Even in ways that I might think is weird. Yeah. Something I wouldn't do. Yeah. But I'm like, as long as you're not distracting others, but then that's kind of a fine line. Because if you go into a very strict, like, Baptist congregation, and one person raises both hands in the air, that's a distraction. Because no one else is doing it. Well, so they stick out. You're like you said, they stick out like a sore thumb. Okay,
so there's a difference between that, because a person raising his hands is not drawing attention to himself.
He could be.
No,
you mean not on purpose?
Well, if he's because I'm pretty sure. I mean, if he's standing there with his eyes open and his hands up, okay, like, that's different. But most people who raise their hands have their eyes closed, and it's just between them and the Lord.
Right.
So they're not trying to draw attention.
They're not trying to draw attention.
They're not trying to. So it's the motive.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So you can almost tell those people that their motive is to draw attention to themselves.
Right.
Now, obviously, there's always exceptions to the rules, and there's people who are literally trying to worship, and they're not. Their motive isn't. That's just the way that they are. But the problem is you still have to be. You don't want to cause your brother and sister to stumble. So you have people who literally want to kill you next to you because of what you're doing. Yeah. I mean, there's people who sing too loud. I'm guilty of that. Yeah. Sometimes I throw our worship leaders off because I sit so close to the stage, and if I sing those wrong words, man, I had one of our worship leaders was one of my friends. He's like, dude, it's like, there's times you throw me off because you'll say the wrong words, and I'm like,
Chuck, can you sit in the back from now on?
Totally.
Yeah.
And
what do you think of this? What do you think of, like, if someone is singing when no one else is? Like for example, like, you have a song that has a chorus. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good example of a worship song. But, like, they'll say, like, the do do do, and they sing, and then in between, everyone's singing the first verse and the second verse. Yeah. this guy repeats, let's say, what they just said, but he's all by himself and he's singing it. Would you say?
So is he like echoing everybody?
In a sense, yes. But you can only hear him. So would you think that is drawing attention to yourself? Would you put that in that category? Or is that a tough one?
That's a one you have to judge. I mean, you have to judge by the situation because, there's just some people, like, they come from cultures where that's just the norm.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's like a lot of times you can't even understand what people are singing because there's just so many different things going on.
Yeah.
But yet you take it as a whole and go, wow, this is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
But
wouldn't that go back to what you said a minute ago? Like, you think that person, even if that's where they came from, that's the way people did things, that you would realize after a while, like, oh, I'm the only one doing this.
So we've had stuff like that at our church. And at first it throws people off.
Yeah.
But then as people start to listen to it more, they're starting to appreciate it, and it actually becomes a blessing. Now, of course, it could not be a blessing, but it just depends on if the person knows what they're doing, if they can sing, if they can, all kind of stuff. And if they're talented at it, then a lot of times it adds to.
Okay.
So
people start to like it.
So the second Sunday of every month, we have a Hispanic church who meets the same time as us.
Okay.
But the second Sunday of the month, they come in and they take communion with us.
Oh, nice.
And most of the time we sing just English songs, but last time we sang a Hispanic song. And
like in Spanish?
Like we sing a song that both the Whiteys and our congregation is multi-ethnic, so there's like the white congregation and the Hispanic congregation. So we switched off verses, and it's like there was times where we didn't know, like we knew the song, but we didn't know the words of the song well enough, so we had to just listen to the Hispanic people sing. Okay. And they were singing in Spanish, and it was just like absolutely like just beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could have people that get bugged by that.
Sure.
Because they're not able to worship because they don't know the words.
Well, the words are on the screen. Go for it.
Yeah. And so it's just interesting, like So it's just, I mean, you have to be very sensitive. You have to be sensitive with the Spirit's leading. And what I've often found is when there's distractions like that, the Spirit's like, like deal with it. Boom.
Yeah. So that seems to be
as a sheep, as a shepherd.
Yeah.
One of your jobs is to protect the people.
Sure. But this is kind of a cool theme that keeps going through all the things you're saying. Is that you feel like, which is awesome, that when there's issues, the Lord just takes care of it for you. And
that's what I found. Yeah. And, some people might call that like lazy or, kind of like passive. But I used to be a person who would deal with things. And I found that God's able to deal with things a lot better if I give it some time. Yeah. And people don't get as butt hurt.
Right. Okay.
And so
I mean, no matter what you're doing, right? You are leading a group of people that are so different in personality. I don't care what church you're in.
Yeah.
Like you have a variety of different personalities.
Yes.
Some people are very outgoing and like to do all this stuff and we got them at my church now. They're very open. Other people just kind of some people don't even sing. Some people just kind of read the words and they're just like whatever, right? Yeah. See, but some people might look at that person and go, oh, that guy's not worshiping. But you don't know what's going on in his heart. Maybe he is. Maybe he's just reflecting on the words that he's seeing and, who knows, right? I mean...
You're so nice, Ryan. You're so nice. I always tell our people this. Because they're always like, worship is more than just singing on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And I always tell the people, but if you can't sing on Sunday when you're looking at the back of somebody's head in a place where everybody's exactly like you, then you're not worshiping the rest of the week.
You think the actual singing has to happen for it to be worship?
No. Okay. I think there's all different forms. I mean, the root word for worship is the same root word that we get work. Okay. In the Hebrew. Okay. And so, or the Greek, I can't remember which one. I'm not good with languages.
Well, I know the Greek it means to bow down and kiss the ring.
Yeah. Well, but the root word, like that wor kind of thing, is like it's both the same for worship and work.
Okay.
And so I always tell people, I go, worship isn't just on Sunday mornings.
Oh, I'm with you there.
But I often believe it's the starter.
Okay.
For all the different types of other worship.
Okay.
Because I mean, it's like, my thing is like, if you truly have a relationship with the Lord, if you can't worship on Sunday, like
But you'd say what you're saying is if you can't sing on Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, because why not? I mean, worship is literally giving the worth to the Lord. It's praising Him. It's lifting up our voices. It's an audible kind of thing.
Right.
And if you can't do that on Sunday morning during church, I highly doubt that you're doing it the rest of the week.
Okay. Well, what if there's somebody that they're embarrassed in front of people, but in their car they got that Air One on, like you said, and they're belting it out?
Yeah.
So it's easier for them to sing in their car by themselves.
I think I've heard all of the excuses over the years.
Yeah.
And it goes down to the fact is that goes back to, are you more worried about man?
Right.
Or are you more worried about,
or maybe you have a terrible singing voice and you are worried about, I don't want to throw everybody off. I don't want to be like that tambourine guy, so I'm going to be like,
sing softly.
Yeah. Or just lip sync.
Well, I mean, you can get into the weeds of semantics all you want to on it. But really, worship is all 100% about the heart. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's 100% about the heart.
Yeah.
And so the thing is that, do you have a heart for worship?
Right.
Because the thing is that part of following Jesus Christ is you submit yourself under your lordship. His lordship.
Absolutely.
And all you need to realize, you just need to watch one episode of like Downton Abbey to realize that, you see mature grown adults referring to other people as my lord and my lady. Right. Well, they've submitted themselves under their leadership.
Yeah, and I think that is what worship is, whether it's through singing, whether it's through whatever you're doing in life. Like you said, it's not just a Sunday thing. Yeah. That is what worship is. You are submitting yourself to the Lord.
But when you have a growing, living, thriving relationship with Jesus Christ, it should be a spring that springs forth from your heart.
Right.
Like you should want to.
But do you think that can be happening without audibly singing? Is I guess what I'm getting at. Or do you think those?
Well, of course the argument can be made for that. Mm-hmm. But my argument on the other side is that it's like the famous article. It's the famous argument about like being on the fence as a Christian. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of walking the fence between what's right and what's wrong. My question is like, why are you even near the fence?
Right.
As a Christian.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, why are you even dancing with the dark side?
Right.
Like you should be miles away from that fence.
But see, that's what I'm getting at though.
So with worship is the same thing. It's like,
but you're presenting that as the dark side.
No, I'm not. Side. No, I'm not. But I'm just saying it's like, I believe if somebody has a living, breathing relationship with God that's thriving in their heart, that this is something that just wells up.
It's just a byproduct. Yeah. What you're saying. It'll come out of you.
If you look at David, I mean, you read his Psalms.
Yeah.
It's the same
But he
thing.
was a musician, though. I mean, I think some people are just musically inclined and some aren't.
I'm not so much talking about him as a person. I'm talking about the Psalms that he wrote.
Okay.
If you look at, like, he's expressing what's in his heart.
Yes.
And I know people have problems with singing because my grandfather, he was a strong Christian guy. He read his word and all that kind of stuff, and he just sat there like stoic kind of thing. And I know he's up with Jesus and all that kind of stuff.
Well, that goes back to the personality thing, like I said. I mean, you can have somebody that's very stoic, doesn't say a lot, and then you can have somebody that just is very boisterous.
I don't judge. I don't judge people on that, but I always tell people, like, if you have a hard time singing there's no other easier place. There's no easier place to worship Jesus than on Sunday morning with your church.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, like, if you can't do it there, then, I don't know. That's just that's always been my argument.
Yeah.
Because I always be like, I worship people out, I'm close to Jesus out in nature kind of thing. And I just always just like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my issue, and I know it's my issue, and I don't blame other people for this, is I get easily distracted by other people during a worship service. And it doesn't have to be as far as somebody flopping around on the ground.
It's probably good that you're eating meat now. Were you wondering how I was going to segue that?
You got to get it in there. But I mean, like, obviously, like I watch some of these like videos of like way Pentecostal churches, right? Where people are flopping around on the ground, they're foaming at the mouth. I mean, it looks very demonic, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
But to them, that's worship, right? That's a worship service.
Yeah.
And it's like, if somebody was to start doing that at Calvary, that would be a huge distraction to everybody in the room. Like, some guy's flopping around the floor. You're like, was he having a seizure? What's going on? Somebody called the paramedics. What's going on? This guy's going to die, And it would be that big thing. But in a charismatic church,
so funny.
it would be weird if somebody wasn't doing that, right? That would be the weirdo.
No,
you know?
that'd still be like. I mean, I grew up charismatic.
I'm talking like far, like the weirdo stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not putting all charismatics in that group, of course, but you good?
No, I'm just getting a notification from my bank, like possible fraud things.
Oh, beautiful.
What the heck is that?
I had somebody buy a bunch of jewelry in Spain with our credit card one time. It was
wonderful.
awesome. I was like, hey, I've never been to Spain, and I haven't bought any jewelry since my wife's wedding ring. So,
What the heck's going on here, man? I hate this stuff.
yeah, it's awesome.
So somebody again. It's geez, man.
Okay.
So
Okay, cool. Let's go into. There's a couple stuff I want to go back to after this part, but I want to because we're already closer to this. I wanted to talk to you about, like you mentioned, like spiritual gifts, and we talked about speaking in tongues. Now, my first introduction to any of that was back when you and I were both going to Calvary.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of it.
No.
I mean, it wasn't a charismatic church really by any means. No. But there was definitely a few
Paul wanted
times.
it to be. He wanted to be
correct.
more than it was. Yeah.
Yes, and that was back in the time. I don't know if you remember this, where they would put
the microphones.
The microphones. And even back then, I was a baby Christian.
Yeah, notorious.
And I thought to myself, is the Holy Spirit incapable of speaking to people without microphones? Is that what's happening? Or we got to help the Holy Spirit out. I mean, he needs a little help with these microphones. I was like, are you kidding me? And I felt like that just, to me, and this is me speaking my personal opinion. I feel like that opened it up to people's flesh to be able to say, oh, I got something to say. But that's not the Lord. That's not, it's you. Oh, no, it's the Lord. No, because when I read the scripture, I guess I'll just give my understanding of what I see in the scripture first, and then we'll talk about it, is that when I look at something like tongues, or really any of the spiritual gifts in Acts 2 or in 1 Corinthians or any of that, it's God doing it. It is not people saying, all right, today I'm going to go do God's gift. It's like, no, God just does it through you. You don't have a...
So let me explain a little bit about the background behind that. Okay, so at that time, most Calvaries, well, a lot of the Calvaries were really large. Like thousands of people in a service at times. And those churches would often say, we don't... And Chuck Smith said this too. Like, we don't encourage the speaking of tongues during services because his reasoning is that if somebody was at the front was doing it, people in the back couldn't hear it.
Okay, gotcha.
And so that was why they didn't do it. And so you had a lot of these Calvary pastors, and a lot of times Paul was part of this. They were on this Calvary Chapel listserv kind of thing. There was an overreaction to those things, whether good or bad. And so Paul wanted that in the services. And so I'm not sure if he had heard this from somebody or this was an idea he came up with. That was too long ago to remember. You can ask him. He's like, well, we'll just solve this by putting microphones up in the aisles. And I'm pretty sure he heard this from somebody else. We'll put microphones in the aisle. That way, if there's a message in tongues in the service, people can share it. And so... So, anyways, that's what's that's why the microphones ended up in the services, because they wanted people to hear the message of tongues. But the funny thing is oftentimes if somebody is going to have a message of tongues, like they're so in the spirit, like they're unaware of anything else, and they're not going to move to a microphone to. If
it's genuine, I would say yes.
For sure. So, anyways, it was, so they would just, I don't know if I ever saw anybody walk. That was so close towards the end of me leaving. That I don't think I ever heard anybody walk up to the microphone and say something. And I can't
remember if I did either.
The funny thing is though, it always picked up crazy feedback.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, because the fact is like.
Wasn't there like 3 or 4 of them? Like at the end of each aisle, right?
It was in the I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I know it was on the 2 outsides. I'm not sure if there was one in the middle. But it was so funny, though, because it's just like they had to like make sure that like, other things didn't get picked up. Like in the whole commotion of everything. Just of a typical people walking in, or people saying something into the aisle, kind of
What if when you went back and listened to it, you could hear like this... This is God. Knock it off.
It was weird. It was weird. That was a that was a. I mean, because that's my last year there, they had a female worship leader, and that was an absolute train wreck.
Yeah, I remember her.
And
she came from Canada, right?
Yeah, Sheila, yeah. That was, I mean, it was just a mess.
Yeah,
there was just a mess. There were so many messes everywhere.
Well, it was funny because it was, if I remember correctly, it was her and her husband auditioned, and I always felt bad for him because they were like, "We like you, but not you.
Yeah,
we're going to hire you as the worship leader, but not you."
Well, that's what because he's the one who actually applied, and then they wanted her.
Yeah,
if I remember, I could be totally wrong.
They might have been just specifically looking for a female lead.
But
Some
it was just
people
a bad
are
situation.
looking for that.
It was a bad situation.
Yeah,
and yeah.
But I mean, what are your thoughts? Just not just on the Calvary stuff of that, but I mean, just in general. Like I always have an issue with when they say, well, they have those tests you take, right, to find out which spiritual gift you have, and then when you find out which one you have, they tell you to practice it and get good at it so you can use it for the Lord. And it's like, I don't see that happening in Scripture. I feel like when people have a gift, quote unquote, of the Spirit, it's like the Lord is doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I totally.
It's just dangerous to tell somebody, you have this gift. Oh, I do?
Yeah.
Well, I'm awesome. Yeah. Well, let's get at it, I'm going to be the best person at this I can.
So, yeah. There's been a lot of abuse. Mm-hmm. Abuse isn't the right word. Misuse of how gifts were, given out and used by people in the church. And I think... Yeah. I think people look at things like 1 Corinthians 12 and we're a body, so everybody should have. And it's like we have to discover these gifts and we have to mobilize them in certain areas and all that kind of stuff. And I'm much more of a person let's be led by the Lord. What is the Lord putting upon your heart? And when somebody's sincere, oftentimes I've had some people go, they have you can totally tell they have an evangelism heart and they're like, oh, I want to serve in the nursery. And you're like. Kind of thing. And and so anyways, you know what I'm saying? And so I just think when you see the gifts, you see a lot of man's effort to make God happen.
Yes.
And so but you can't. I mean, there's abuse situations where you're just okay, where they're trying to force things to happen. The supernatural gifts. Right. They want the tongues, they want the prophecy. Yeah. Kind of thing. Have you heard of the Trump prophet who, predicted that he would get shot in the ear?
No.
Oh, yeah.
I know that a lot of people were talking about how, was it Revelation, talks about blood on the right ear and all that stuff. I heard all that.
Well, there was this guy who predicted, and he was his prophecy was only partially right. And then he tried to recorrect it afterwards, everything I was right, kind of thing. And so there's a lot of people out there who just who want to be prophets and who they for whatever motivation. I mean, we could spend another whole hour talking about motivations for things. Yeah. But I think people they either want the recognition, they want to feel important, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like I said, motivations aside. But oftentimes when things are in Scripture, people try to formalize them. Mm-hmm. For sure. Here's the gifts in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, right. Romans chapter 12, I believe, too, or something like that. Yeah. And let's how do I know that I have these things? Well, most of these people who are asking these things have no devotional life, no prayer life, no nothing. They just want to know what. Yeah.
They want the power.
Well, follow this change. Follow this chain. They want to know what their gift is. Right. But oftentimes it goes back to what's God's will for my life kind of thing. It kind of goes back to that basic question, if that makes sense to you. Yeah. And so because people are just I need some direction. Yeah. So if I know what my gift is, I can, at least
right. They want to be somebody. They want to feel important.
But the problem is that God doesn't work that way. Right. Because it's a faith walk. It's a walk of trusting Him and looking to Him. Proverbs 3 says, trust not in your own understanding. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. There you go.
That's the Christian walk right there, summed up.
Yeah. And it's leaning on him, not trusting in your own.
Right.
And the problem is that we get impatient because God often, his timeline is way, way different than our timeline.
Right.
And so waiting and trusting. And I think that's probably the one thing that I'm learning as I get older is just like, let's just trust God's, and
that's working for you because you said he takes care of stuff that needs taken care of. So
it's just a really, really like silly example, but powerful. So on our property at our church, we have 5 acres, and we built an amphitheater.
Oh, nice.
Because it had a natural slope, and so Larry Bassett, goes to our church.
Yeah,
he's a retired Mason.
Yeah,
and I said, hey, he totally headed it up. Like we now have like this professional amphitheater in our church.
Now you can start having some shows out there.
It could literally seat more people than our sanctuary can. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So anyways,
you got to get Switchfoot to play out there, man. You just set it off.
It would.
They're always down to do that kind of stuff.
What's the other group? I like Switchfoot, but what's the other group I really like?
I don't know.
Oh darn! They're from South Carolina. They're really popular too.
New still going?
No, they've been around. Yeah, they're still going, but they've been around for a long time. What's their name? I got it right here.
I don't know.
I'm gonna pull up one of my old groups here.
Yeah.
You're gonna laugh when I say it. They're one of my favorite ones. You're like, oh yeah. What's the name of the group here? Shoot, where'd they go? Need to Breathe.
Oh,
Need to Breathe.
yeah.
Dude,
Have you seen them live?
Oh yeah.
Dude,
were you a couple times.
Were you at Vina Robles when they played?
No, but I was down in Santa Barbara when they did their acoustic tour, which is like even more emphasizes the lead singer's voice.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, so the funny thing is, no, I'd love to have them there. That would be awesome.
Yeah, dude.
But so
set it up. I'll be there.
So back to the thing, like when we built this amphitheater, it created a flat space, and then we have all these oak trees, and we had some guys who went and cleared out everything, and it's created this really cool shaded area, almost like a park, where you could like have like picnics and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. And so everybody's like, well, we need to get picnic tables, and so we started like researching, picnic tables, and they're like the ones that like can be outside, they're like $1,000 each.
Dang.
Like the metal that are coated and all that kind of stuff,
right.
And they're nice, but they're $1,000 each, and so I mean that's $4,000 for 4 tables. Yeah. Like we don't have the budget for that.
Well, Prep Total Dollar can raise money for a private jet. You can get some benches.
So
I
just told my guys, I said, yeah, totally. So I just told my guys, I said, I'm just going to pray about this.
Yeah,
I'm going to pray about this and see if God will open up an opportunity. Because maybe somebody will donate these things to us, And so I started praying. My youth pastor comes up to me and he shows me Facebook Marketplace, and he found 4 picnic tables, like the kinds that we want, like
nice.
for like $120
each or all of them.
Each.
Dang, dude.
Which is like
so like $900 cheaper.
Oh, totally.
Wow.
But it was over in Lamont, which is right between Arvin and Bakersfield.
Yeah, hey, that's worth the trek, man.
Well, then he searched a little farther, and he found 4 in Santa Maria.
Oh, wow.
But they're just a little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
And my administrator guy, he's just laughing at me because he's like, "Yep, you said you were going to pray for it,
Yeah.
And I mean, I could share thousands and thousands of stories like that where God's like, it just. It's something that was going to cost $4,000 only costs now $600.
Right.
But that's the trust thing.
Yeah.
But in our efforts, oftentimes we rush because we just want to have things done, and we want to make things happen.
Right.
But
sometimes the answer might be no.
Yeah.
Lord, we want these benches.
And I would have been okay if like there would have been no picnic tables, because the fact is like because the cheapest one we were finding was like $400.
Right.
But that's the trust. That's the reliance upon God that you have to have, but you have to be willing to go to God.
Right. Well, is it James that says you don't have because you do not ask?
Yeah.
Right. Is that James?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or you ask with the wrong.
Yeah, and that's the second part, right?
Jesus said you have not because you ask not.
Right.
And how few people actually ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just try to figure it out on their own.
But then there's people that read that verse, though, and then they get mad because they're like, Jesus said, I don't have because I don't ask, and here I am asking, I don't have. Jesus lied, and they get all upset. It's like, no, you're missing a
part of the puzzle, right? God's will is going to be done. Like, you know, you have to be in line with Him. You can't just be like, I want a Ferrari. Where is it, God?
Yeah, these people are funny.
Yeah, these fast food Christians, you know, they want it right now. You know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. It's crazy. Okay. So, yeah, that's one thing I'm just learning as I get older. It's just like, you know, it's just, if we're just willing to wait and watch God work.
Yeah.
He does.
Or and again, yes, but then also just be ready and be like, okay, I prayed about it. Yeah. The Lord knows my heart.
Yeah. Just keep going.
It might be a no.
Yeah.
Just keep living my life. That's if He wants to bless me with that, great. If not, hey, same great.
So
you know,
true.
God is God. You know,
true.
No matter what He does, He has a reason for it.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah. If you leave it in His hands.
Yeah. But back to so back to tongues again.
Yeah.
So the way that it would work in any congregation I've been in is somebody would say some language that makes no sense to most people. And then they'd ask for an interpretation, and then someone would explain in English what was said in that language. So do you see that as a biblical model of that?
Well, yeah, because I mean, if you look in Acts chapter 2, you know, I mean, the one thing that Baptists like misinterpret that thing is that they were given tongues of other foreign languages, and even some Pentecostal churches like they don't even know foreign language. Like, oh, you have this language, and they'd send them off to that country, and I was like, no, you don't have that.
Right, and that's kind of my point. Yeah,
well, that's another man's kind of effort.
Yeah,
but it says that they had cloven tongues of fire.
Yeah,
you know, and everybody was able to understand in their own language.
Yes.
You know, and so you know, you had 120 people speaking in tongues, and you had thousands outside the upper room understanding them.
Yes,
and God worked in a supernatural way.
But then where does the translation part come in?
Well, you look
because if they are understood it,
you look at gifts where Paul lays it out. He says some have the gift of tongues, some have the gift of translation, and interpretation,
right.
which is it's the same exact thing. See, I told you, you're the next Mike Winger. Cat popping up on your table, man. And so interpretation, translation, same thing.
Well, it can mean translation, but it can also mean explanation.
Yeah,
which is what Peter did in Acts 2.
Yeah, well, but then also too, you have. I mean, so you have when somebody gives up an interpretation, they're given an explanation of what the person just spoke in tongues.
Right.
So, you know, I grew up in a tradition where, I've been in hundreds of services where there was tongues. And then there was interpretations. I've been in services where there's tongues and no interpretations. I've been in services.
So what do you make of that? Do you think, does that automatically mean to you that
over
tongue
exuberance
was not from the Lord?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Well, I have to trust because that's what Scripture says.
But do you ever think it can happen where someone speaks in tongues, quote unquote, and then someone gives an interpretation, quote unquote, and neither one's from God?
Oh yeah, I've been in services like that too. I'm like, why would God tell us that? You know, I've been in situations like that. She's stinky.
He's got some toots, man.
So, get her excited now. Her digestion's going crazy.
Anyway, yeah. So
I've experienced almost everything.
Okay.
I've been in services where people give tongues, and the pastor's like, "That's not of the Lord. Shut the person down."
Nice. And how does he determine that?
Well, when the person gave the tongues, it was obvious as day and night. Like, this isn't a place for the message of tongues, you know.
Oh, because of the timing
part of the service. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, because you have to believe that God's a God of order.
It's true. Right. But when you look at just Acts 2, just for the time being, let's leave 1 Corinthians out.
Yeah.
Which is not the way we should do things. You should always, all Scripture should apply to each other. But just in Acts 2.
But why did Paul give the letter to 1 Corinthians?
I think it was correctional.
Well, yeah, because they were crazy.
Correct.
They were crazy charismatics. They were weaponizing it. They were doing it for attention. They were doing it stuff. So he had to okay. Yeah. And that's why he said later on in 14, he's like, there should only be one or two.
Right.
Messages of
and I think that's really key, because I think that when we look at what's happening in most churches today, or let's say the last however many years, 50 years, I think that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
I think it's exactly like the Corinthian church, and you got people being invited by either the pastor or the worship leader or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, if anybody has a tongue, please share.
Yes.
And then people are like, oh.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't see it happening. I don't think the disciples in the upper room or in Acts chapter 2 or whatever were like, all right, guys, who wants to speak in tongues? Who's going to go first?
Yeah.
It just happened. Why? Because God was breaching the language barrier, and he was communicating to people in their own language, right? That's plain as day to me.
Yeah,
There was no need for translation, no
Yeah.
need for interpretation. None of that was necessary because they all heard it in their own language.
Yeah.
But then you get to 1 Corinthians and you're like, okay, but what's going on here?
Yeah.
This seems like something totally different. Well, it is because he was correcting the weirdness that they were doing.
It's important not to formalize Acts chapter 2. I mean, so many people have tried to formalize Acts chapter 2 in so many ways. I mean, like, in the speaking in tongues, because, I mean, I have charismatics who still believe that you're not truly saved unless you speak in tongues.
I've met people like that.
Yeah.
They've told me I'm not saved because I don't speak in tongues.
And then I've had people say, like, well, if you speak in tongues, you have a foreign language. That means you're called to missions. And I've had, I've had all these different things. And the problem is that people are trying to talk about formalizing Acts chapter
Now, what do you
2.
mean by that, formalizing?
Well, okay, so you're saying because everybody understood when there was tongues, there really doesn't need to be interpretation.
I'm saying in that instance.
Yes. So, I mean, in a group instance, kind of like, even in a service where there's tongues, like everybody should automatically understand. That's what some people, that's what I mean by formalizing. Like, this is the way it should happen because this is the way it happened in Acts chapter 2.
Well, that's the only historical account we have of it in the Bible. The only other place we have is 1 Corinthians, right?
Well, I mean, there in the book of Acts, several times Paul talks to people like, "Have you been baptized in the Holy Spirit?"
Right. And then it says they spoke in tongues.
Yes.
Like there's three specific places.
Yes.
Acts 2 actually gives us a detailed description.
That's only one. Yeah.
Right.
And so this comes back to what we just talked about Proverbs 3 about trusting the Lord. Not leaning on our understanding, because when you see people trying to formalize or trying to make a plan or trying to figure things out according to Acts chapter 2, which was such a unique situation, we've never seen that ever again in history. Right. But because it's in Scripture, people are like, well, this is the law, and this is when we make laws out of what God is doing. Yeah,
I'm not saying we should do that.
No. I'm saying what I was telling you earlier is I've seen it. I've seen that chapter try to be basically
like legalistic and this is the only way.
And so if the thing is like if there's a mess, so. I believe in two different types of tongues. I believe in a personal language. Okay. And I think that's what Paul was talking about when he said, "Have you been baptized in the Holy Spirit?" and people spoke in tongues. I don't think that they were giving messages because they weren't in places like there was a service going on, And so I believe that people can have a personal prayer language of
okay,
tongues.
so let's stop there then. So that's another common one that people talk about. They'll use what you just said. They'll also use the verse where Paul says, "Though I speak in the tongues of angels and have not love." So if that's true, this is always my serious question. Yeah. And I've met people that say, "Oh, I have a prayer language." Yeah. And when it's just me and God, and I talk to God in this other language. Yep. My question is always, and this is kind of, I guess, the rational side of me: why? Yeah. Does God not understand English? Like when you're speaking English, He's like, "Ryan, I can't understand you. I need you to use this other prayer language."
Well, I think that there's times when when people get into a prayer time where maybe they don't have the words to utter. Or the fact is it's a I hate to use this phraseology, but a higher level of communication with God. Like I'm just real hesitant to kind of try to explain it away. But so when Paul says this, he says in I think it's Acts chapter or 1 Corinthians chapter 14, he says, "I pray in tongues more than you all." Yeah. But he says, it's better that people understand. Right.
I think he says speak, not pray. But he says, I
speak in tongues.
I'm glad that I speak in tongues more than you all.
Which is the same. Which I mean is the same thing. So, but he also says in the same chapter, message of tongues are for unbelievers, and prophecy is for believers. Right. I mean, if you've ever been in a service where somebody speaks in tongues, it stops everything.
Right, but here's what's interesting. I know a lot of non-believers that have left congregations because they've heard that. Yeah. And that's why I've always struggled with those verses. Like, it says it's for non-believers, but it usually scares them away. If they're like, these people are psycho. What are they doing? Okay. Whoa, I'm out.
Okay, but why are they leaving?
Because they're scared.
Okay, but what's the source of that fear?
Because they think that people are nuts. Okay. They're out of their minds. Just like it says in Paul says in 1 Corinthians. Okay.
So then
people think you're crazy.
Because I've heard this a lot of times too. And I guess in my age, I'm kind of like, okay, well, let's dig into what's really the root behind that. Okay. Like when people tell me, I don't go to church because it's full of hypocrites. Right. Or I mean, there's all these different excuses, and it's like it may not be time for those people to be in a church. Their heart may be so rebellious that they use that as an excuse, or the fact is like they could be disruptive.
Right.
You know?
Do you think it's ever the other way, though? Do you think it could be that what the people are doing in the church in the form of tongues is being done incorrectly and it's scaring people away?
It could be, but I think we worry too much about responses for unbelievers.
Okay.
Honestly,
we should be focused more on the.
I know what I'm just saying is like I think we're trying to be so accommodating to unbelievers.
Oh, I'm with you.
That we don't allow the Holy Spirit to work.
And
I'm not just saying just in speaking in tongues. I'm just like, you know, we're trying to be so appealing to unbelievers that the church is no longer a place of communal worship.
And I'm totally with you on that because that's what the church is for believers.
Yeah.
Now, if non-believers wander in, great.
If a believer has a problem and leaves, I'm more concerned about that than an unbeliever.
Right.
And so, but I know people who, you know, who are unbelievers and they've heard messages of tongues and it struck to their heart.
Oh, you had met people like that?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because the fact is like they were wondering if God was real.
And that did it for them.
And it's just like, it's at that moment, it was such a God moment for them that they're just like, well, but they think of logically, like, why would some human do this out loud and make crazy noises kind of thing, unless it was God? So there's people that go both ways.
Yeah, I would love to talk to a person like that.
Yeah.
Just because I would be like, well, what was it specifically that made you think, oh, this is God talking to me?
I'm not in that realm anymore, so I don't, you know, this is back early ministry, even before that, you know, and so it's just, but you have to trust God's word. If Paul says that the tongues are for unbelievers, you have like, okay, well, you know, maybe it's a sifting.
Right.
It's a winnowing fork.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at, again, Acts 2 as a model, I'm not trying to say that's the only place, but when other people heard the languages in their own language, there was plenty of non-believers there as well.
Well, all of them were non-believers.
Exactly. So I mean, that was what it was for in that
what is
case.
It? 5,000 people were added to the church that day. I'm not sure what number.
So in that case, that was the purpose.
But there was way more than 5,000 people there that day.
Sure. Yeah. Well, some people thought they were drunk.
Well, yeah.
So those are the people that weren't hearing it.
So that's what I'm saying, though. Yeah. Like, they heard the tongues.
Yes.
They even understood what they could hear in their own ears. So they heard directly from God. God was speaking to through those people.
Correct.
They heard. They knew what was happening.
Yes.
And you had people who welcomed it, and you had people who rejected it. And I think the same thing with tongues in church today. Like, you know, if somebody gives a message in tongues today, you're going to have those people reject it. And people are going to welcome it. And it's always it always shocks me because it's always the people who accept it always shock me. Because just people you would think, oh, these are highly logical people and you know, very very conformed and like put together, and like God just speaks to them. And then you have the people who are like lives are like, you know, totally a mess, and everything's just completely out of whack. And you think, oh, they would totally be open. And they're like, wow, you know, kind of thing. So it's like that's just the way God works.
Yeah. Have you ever seen tongues happen in a congregation where it's not prompted by someone on the stage?
Oh, totally. That's okay. Okay, so me growing up, I was never part of a church where it was prompted.
Okay, but you grew up in charismatic churches where it was kind of accepted and normal.
Yes.
It was a normal
So,
thing.
like I say, so when people prompted it, that was like foreign to me. I'm like,
right, I understand that. That's
you know, like I felt like they were just like kind of like.
Yeah.
You know.
But what about like if it was like a Baptist, like a strong Baptist congregation, and they're in the middle of whatever they're doing, and then someone starts speaking in tongues? Do you think that's a common occurrence?
No.
So if it's not a common occurrence, would you say then that it's because God's not using people for that gift in that congregation because they're so uptight and not charismatic?
Well, no. I think honestly that God, he's not going to use people that aren't open to it. He's definitely not going to force people like who are against it to do it. I know a lot of people. I just laugh at all these charismatic who just pray that John MacArthur would start speaking in tongues. But
because that would prove he was saved.
Well,
because we all know MacArthur's songs.
But let me ask you this question: imagine the fallout if John MacArthur started speaking in tongues.
The fallout from his own congregation, you mean, or just people that follow him around the world?
His congregation? No, I mean just like his ministry and like just his expansive reach.
Because it would be a going back on what he said.
Oh yeah,
because he said multiple times he doesn't believe those gifts are in practice today.
No. And so that's why I know charismatics. But I mean, I look at like I think God is sensitive enough to realize that he can minister to people in all different
Right.
types of ways.
Right.
And that I mean, if John MacArthur was to speak in tongues, I would be shocked at the
See, but that would be, to me, that would be, and I'm a skeptic with this stuff,
Yeah.
right? If that happened,
yeah.
I would be more prone to say that's of God, because John MacArthur would never do that on his own.
Don't you think that you would be in the minority?
Of thinking that was from God?
Yeah.
Most people, you think, would think that he just decided he's going to go against what he's been saying for years?
No, I just think that they would be like, they would be offended because he's preached so long against that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I guess maybe I'd be in the minority.
I just know the groups that kind of run in those circles.
Yeah, the MacArthurites.
Yeah. I think they would just be absolutely I think it would do more damage to the church than.
I think it would do a lot of damage to his well, I use that term, but like his worshipers.
So you take it down to a micro level, like if that were to happen in a Baptist church that didn't practice or was open to that,
right?
It would probably be even more destructive.
Yeah, but see, I personally would take that as more real.
Well, yeah.
Only because if it's in a charismatic church where everybody's doing that all the time anyway.
But that's because you're a repentant vegetarian. That's why.
True.
It just shows that God can change people.
That's true. I'm living proof.
You are probably part of a small faction of people.
I agree. Yeah. Good looking bald guys. Yeah, we're fewer dime a dozen. Or no, the dime a dozen means there's a lot of them. What's the phrase?
We'll go with that. We'll go with that. I mean, let's put it this way: God could split the Pacific Ocean and people could see it and it'd be all over video and all over the world, and you would still have believers, not unbelievers, but you'd have still believers go, no.
Yeah. They'd want more evidence.
Or they would just like, no, it just doesn't fit my narrative, so
right.
I'm not going to.
Right. That's why I try to make my narrative scripture.
Yeah.
And not denominations and not this one teacher and what he says. And that's what I mean by like MacArthurites. Like, I like John MacArthur.
Yeah.
I don't agree with everything he says, but I think he's a good Bible teacher.
I don't read anything he says about the gifts or the Spirit.
Right.
Like that,
But I mean, he's very worshipped in a sense. Like there's people that follow John MacArthur, not Jesus. And I'm like, and then of course they wouldn't say it that way, but you watch their lives and they're like, well, what did John say about this? Yeah. What did John say about? And you're not talking about the Apostle John. You're talking about like John MacArthur.
But you have people too. Like, I mean, so I have friends who live in Houston, and you have people like, oh, I got to get my daily Joel.
Oh my gosh.
Get my daily Joel.
You're still friends with those people?
I have a friend. Oh no, it wasn't my friend saying. It's like it's the people that came around in Houston.
Right.
And I had a friend who sent me a cube. And it's all of Joel Osteen's sayings, and it's like a saying a day.
Nice.
And so it's a little thing you push, and you'll actually hear it in his voice.
Oh, dude!
Oh my! And they sent it to us as
that's got to be the biggest blessing your life has ever received.
As a Christmas joke. And so we just always it's a running joke with our friend group, you know, kind of thing. And so awesome. it goes both ways. I mean, John MacArthur, Joel Osteen. You have people who are just like, you know, But God uses those men to bring people to Jesus.
Think so? Joel Osteen? It's a tough one.
So
I would say yes for John MacArthur.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing that I'm in favor of with Joel Osteen.
Yeah, he's got a nice smile. He's got that going for him.
I just always laugh because his dad was kind of kooky too, but nowhere near as much as Joel.
Right.
And it had a solid ministry, and I just laughed when his dad suddenly passed away, kind of like unexpectedly. Mm-hmm. Joel was working in the video room for his dad's ministry.
Oh wow!
And then they just automatically elevated him up.
I guess you're a pastor now.
To the pastor, and I'm just like. You know, but that's what we have. We have a guy who knows how to do a good video show and say what people like.
He's got that green now, though.
But you know what, though? I God will deal with both those men, because both men have done damage too.
Yeah.
You know.
Sure.
Just like myself, you know.
Yeah, you can probably say that about any pastor, right?
Yes.
There's always
a higher calling, a higher standard.
Yeah.
And so the thing what I'm trying to tell you is that, but the faithful people who are following them, I think God sees their faith.
Gotcha.
And I think He will reward that accordingly,
even if the faith is misplaced,
mistaught.
So what about?
But okay, so
Like, what about like a Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon?
Oh no,
say their faith is in something.
No, because they don't buy the full thing of Jesus being the Son of God and
Right.
Dying for their sins and being resurrected.
Okay, but you think Joel Osteen?
I mean,
does?
the Mormons are trying to go more that way. They're trying to erase their history and they're trying to look exactly like Christianity.
Yeah, they're trying to acclimate.
Yeah, I mean, I saw something the other day where they, oh gosh, I can't even remember who said it, but they were basically saying that like they're like a big part of their history they're trying to erase. And they're trying to align themselves more with Christianity. I mean, the internet has really exposed a lot of these ministries because things are easily be able to found now.
Well, because I could understand why they're trying to get rid of things like polygamy and they're trying to get rid of things that the black people are falling.
But this is this is
stuff.
history. Like this is like I can't even remember the things that they were talking about. But it was just I just went by the other day. I'm not enough on Mormonism,
right? But it's like either God said that through your prophet or he didn't.
Yeah.
If he actually said that through your prophet, now you're going to go back on what God said? You can't do that. I mean, you can, but it's...
Well, I mean, they're trying to distance themselves from Joseph Smith. They're trying to distance themselves from...
Who's the founder of your entire religion? Yeah. How do you distance yourself from that guy?
And he was a peeping Tom. He was a weirdo kind of thing. And
you think? Yeah. I don't know. Getting messages and finding tablets in the forest and that only you see, and then translating them through stones.
All this kind of stuff. I know very little of it, and I just
Oh, that whole story is nuts, man.
Yeah.
All right, a couple things I want to get to before we wrap up here that I wrote down. Got a little bit more time. So this is going to kind of go back to politics in a sense. Okay. The first thing is let's go to this one first with the Olympics. Okay, so we talked about the boxers, the trans boxers, and the whole thing. But then there's this whole issue with the opening ceremony.
Yeah,
that was. So I'm hearing two sides of this. Right, if the first thing was all the uproar from the Christian community, they're mocking the Last Supper. They've got drag queens acting out the Last Supper, which I'm like, well, if that's happening, obviously that's a flagrant, on purpose, in your face attack on Christianity.
Yeah.
But then there's a whole other side that says, no, wait a minute. It was a Greek feast called what starts with B. I forgot what it was called. Yeah. Balakis or something. I forgot what it was called.
Yeah.
But they're saying, no, that's all it was. This isn't the Last Supper. This has just happened to be the way a Greek feast is. And you Christians are taking this all out of proportion. Like always, you guys are getting all butthurt over something that's not even what we're doing. So kind of do you have a stance on that? Or?
Okay. I'm a huge Olympic junkie.
Okay.
I mean, I could probably have a job as like an Olympic historian if that was a job.
Yeah.
I mean, I love, and I've watched every opening ceremony of every Olympics since 1984.
Wow. Wow, dude.
So
I have an authority on this subject. I feel kind of privileged.
So I was really intrigued by France. By Paris, because I'm like, okay, this is going to be interesting. It's going to be different. So I watched it from the very first moment. It started on last Friday at 10:30 in the morning. I started watching it. I watched it on Peacock
You're probably one of the only people.
And I was really intrigued because if you watched every opening ceremony, they all are in arenas, and you have the nations walking in, you have the bands playing, and you have people dancing, and it's pretty much the same exact thing every single Olympics. Okay. And I love watching the nations walk in, and I like.
What do you mean by the same thing? Like it's in a different country, but it's just the same?
It's just. I mean, every opening ceremony is pretty much the same, except for the guy who who lit the torch by shooting an arrow. That's still the coolest. That's still the coolest opening ceremony.
What year was that?
1992 in Barcelona.
Wow.
And so anyways, and I still I'm like a huge swimming and a huge track and field fan. I like watching all the obscure sports. I get annoyed with all of the basketball and all that kind of stuff. I know those are the stars and all that kind of stuff, but I could watch handball. My wife was like, this is the stupidest sport ever. And so, I like watching like rowing, all that kind of stuff. I love Olympic sports, but track and field is like my huge thing. So I watched from the very beginning. By the time it got to this Last Supper thing, like, it was, I I was stoked because the opening ceremony wasn't inside of a stadium, and they were going to go through Paris on boats, and I thought, this is different. This is awesome. This is cool. You're going to see all the highlights, and like Lady Gaga sang, and I'm like, whatever. Yeah. And all these other people were singing, and they even had Marie Antoinette singing with her head chopped off, kind of thing.
That's
and I'm like,
impressive.
and I'm looking, and I'm going, okay, this is French, which means it's creative. And it's strange, and they're just going to go in through their history. And the guy who was carrying this torch was like this faceless, like French soldier kind of dressed from like the 1800s. I thought he was super cool because he was running through all the different things.
So you were digging it up to that point.
So, but every little performance that they did like that, by the time it got to the Last Supper, I saw a bunch of guys going up and down the runway in dresses, and I was like, I just totally shut it off. I'm like, okay, I just wanted to see more. I was waiting for the U.S. to come on the boat.
So the drag queens thing happened late into the ceremony?
Almost towards the end.
Okay.
Almost towards the end. And so, or at least towards the end when I was watching it, which was pretty late. And so anyways, all I wanted to see was the U.S. come up on the boat. And then I'm like, okay, I'm done. I wanted to see the flame lit, but I knew I wasn't going to get to that point. So I saw these guys walking up and down, these guys in dresses like they were drag kind of thing. And I'm like, I just totally shut it off. And so just out of this corner of my eye, I was on my phone, because they would show boats of athletes coming through. Yeah. Then they would show performances, and they show the guy running with the torch.
Okay.
So, like, I wasn't even checked in when I saw when that thing went across. I kind of saw it like out of the corner of my eye. Okay. So I was just by then I was like, I don't care.
Were you already shocked though by the drag queens? Is that what I mean? Turn it off. But
no. I was more like, okay, this is a strange, like the little things that are getting stranger and stranger. Mm-hmm. And then when I saw the guys walking down the runway in the dresses, I was like, I'm checked out. This is like, I knew it was going to go this way. So
you had a hunch it was going to.
So here's the thing. Okay, first of all, these are non-Christian homosexual people doing this.
Right.
So what do you expect?
Right.
What do you expect?
I'm with you.
The explanation of it trying to be another Greek festival is a total.
You think that's BS?
Okay. Total BS. It's a reaction because there was such a. Because what people don't understand, there was such a backlash, not just from Christians, but from all over the world, that they were like, "This is so wrong."
Yeah,
and I think people are so used to like Christians not saying anything or Christians getting up butthurt, but nobody else saying anything. That I think that they were so like taken aback. By everybody that was saying this thing. That they were backpedaling and trying to like defend themselves as much as possible.
Gotcha.
And so it is offensive.
Yeah.
But I know non-Christian people are going to do offensive things, especially in these last days.
Right.
And that's between them and God.
Yeah.
But I was on Twitter, because that's my social media platform. After that, and the amount of fake outrage, because the fact is these people are raging about this Last Supper thing, and the next day, they're like, we need to boycott Olympics, and the next day they're talking about people competing in the Olympics, and I'm like. So you have those people who are searching for attention.
Yeah.
So a lot of the fake outrage kind of stuff was like propagated by people who were like, "Oh, this is a way to build my platform," And there was people who are truly outraged by it, and they should be. It was an outrageous thing, and I think Christians have the right to say that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, but you do think then it was a deliberate recreation of the Last Supper?
These are French.
Okay.
They have these. They were trying to depict. And who painted the Last Supper? Was it Da Vinci? And he spent a lot of time. That's like they were just trying to like mimic art,
right?
Because
because what I saw was first of all I saw a bunch of posts about the Christians being uproar.
Yeah.
Then a couple days later, you had non-believers who were kind of it wasn't the Olympics that were. I mean, the Olympics were apologizing too.
Yeah.
But like you had these other non-believers on Facebook or Instagram or whatever coming back and posting this whole thing about you Christians are being ridiculous. You're always looking for something to jump on. This is what it really was. It wasn't the Last Supper. It was this feast of whatever.
That's the PR machine spinning.
Gotcha.
They can say that.
But you watch it and you think to yourself, there is no way it's anything but them making fun of the Last Supper.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I mean, they had the fat lady with they're trying to redepict the picture of the Last Supper, of Da Vinci's Last Supper.
Right. Of the painting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you look at it, like if you take Da Vinci's and you put the thing in there, and the sad thing is like they had a little boy in that.
Oh, really?
In the French version, like the live version, like you see it, like you see a little boy. At least one of the pictures I saw.
As one of the disciples, or
I don't know, but I didn't see it in the middle of it. But I mean, like that goes back to everybody's like, see, transphobic young boys, like I mean,
oh, they're trying to go that route now.
Kind of thing. And so, and I could be, that's just one of the captions that I saw. I didn't see it live performance, so but the thing is like, yeah, come on, it was way too similar. And so there was an intention to be
okay.
So, but when you hear that response back, it's just, I mean, I'm so used to hearing stuff like a re-explanation, like they're trying to basically gaslight you.
Right. Well, and I wish they would just be open and say, yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. No. Screw you.
Well, no, because the fact is, because there's too much damage.
Yeah.
There's too much damage. Like if they admit to that, like next time something comes up for them to do, people are like, oh no, I can't touch you. You're toxic.
Okay.
So they have to defend.
Yeah, but see, you the thing that just like still baffles me.
Yeah.
Is you have all these companies, and in this case the Olympics, but you go to Disney or you go to Bud Light or you go to all these things that are attempting to push this narrative, to push this agenda. And they're falling flat on their face. Okay. Disney's movies are bombing whenever they're making gay characters prominent. All this stuff, right? They got Dylan Mulvaney on the Bud Light thing. The company lost almost half of its stock. All this stuff is happening.
Target did
yes, Target. Yes,
year, right. And they lost billions of dollars.
Yet they keep doing it.
Well,
and if I'm a CEO, I'm like, look, I'm staying out of this part. I'm just going to make my content.
But that's exactly what's happening. Okay, so you know what spurs all this stuff on, right? Mm-hmm. It's the Human Rights Commission or something that they have a score. Like they have a score that they put out for corporations. And these corporations were so afraid of this Human Rights Commission's score, like if they didn't score 100, that they were going to get lambasted by these. And
the score was based on how
LGBTQ friendly you were.
Gotcha.
And so a lot of these CEOs were being pressured to get by this small faction of employees to get these high scores. Well, what you're finding is a lot of these CEOs are getting fired. And they're bringing in new CEOs who don't care about the Human Rights Commission score. And it was all about that.
Okay.
And
so they were worried if they didn't abide by this scoring, then their company would fail, but then they abided by it and then it failed.
You have to realize a lot of these CEOs, they're just competitive. And so they want to beat everybody else. And so like in this score, I want to get 100. So we got to do everything we can possibly because that's the way this is going. The world is going this way. And what they totally missed on that was that's not true. The clatter from these activists was so loud that these companies missed it because they have a very vocal minority of LGBTQ people in their corporations who are pushing for this, and a lot of them are like in a lot of them work in human resources, and so that's where they get it from, and a lot of them established, especially in COVID, these DEI wings and those things. I mean, colleges and corporations are cutting those things like crazy,
right?
Right,
because they should.
I think of like UCLA Hospital. Okay. UCLA Hospital was at one time the 9th best hospital in the nation.
Wow.
And then they went on this total DEI kick where they weren't hiring any white people. Mm-hmm. You had to be a person of color. Your preference, if your sexual preference lined up with the right certain way. And in just a few short years, it's dropped down to number 17.
Wow. For
a hospital like that, that's epic. And they're doubling down on it.
They are.
But my question is this, are you going to, as an insurance company, are you going to want to send your people to UCLA?
Right.
If you know that because here's a story I heard of it. So there was a brand new medical class, the what do they call it? The medical school class. And, to get into medical school, you have to take all these, organic chemistry and anatomy. You have to have a certain base knowledge.
Yeah.
And so one of the doctors was operating on somebody, and there were students in there, and all he did was ask this girl, and she was, I want to say black, what organ is this? And she didn't know.
Oh, wow.
Well, here's the funny thing is, she got mad at the doctor for embarrassing her in front of everybody.
How dare him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so...
But that's our society now. But everything is everyone else's fault.
Well, but it goes back to exactly what... I mean, if the LGBTQ and especially the trans were okay and they were right, would you have to be this defensive?
Right. That's what I say about all the race
Would you
hosts.
need these organizations?
Yes.
Would you need, because if it's right, then one, if people would accept it, and two, you wouldn't have to like be a fearmonger.
Right.
And so
You just let reality be reality.
So they have to change the narrative forcefully.
Yeah.
But the problem is, it doesn't hold water.
Right. Yeah. I know, because there's no facts to back it up. I tell you what, man, if I'm going in for surgery,
Yeah.
I don't care what color my surgeon is. I really don't.
Yeah.
What I want is someone that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's all I care about. I don't care if they're male or female. I don't care if they're black or white. I don't even care if they're gay or straight. I don't care, as long as they know how to do that surgery.
So exactly. And same thing with flying your airplane.
Absolutely.
Do you want a DEI hire flying your airplane?
Right.
Do you want a DEI hire running your country?
Right. Yes. Yes. Which brings me to my last topic. Miss Harris.
Oh,
So we have a very unique situation happening right now where they have thrown in the VP, right? Last minute. We got about 3 months till the election.
95 days.
And so far she's pretty much hiding from any form of communication, any interviews, any press conferences.
They're using the Biden play card.
Right.
Yeah.
But the scary thing is, I think I was starting to say this earlier. When they picked her as the VP, my first thought was that is the dumbest. Nobody likes her, right?
Yeah.
But you're looking at the polls now, and it's a little frightening.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. But the thing is, she hasn't said anything yet. Mm-hmm. Right? There needs to be people in there that are going to be questioning her on this. Like, why are you changing every single policy you've held for the last 5 years in the last week?
Well, they're keeping her away from that.
I know.
Yeah.
But they can't be allowed to do that, is my point. They can't allow that.
I think Not the Bee, which is one of my favorite social media sites. It's the truth of the Babylon. Babylon being satire. It makes sense up. Not the Bee reports on real things.
Oh, really? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing.
Oh, I'll have to check it out.
And so they reported, because last night they brought home all those prisoners from Russia.
Yeah.
And that was her first live appearance, non-scripted appearance.
How's the timing on that?
And they basically said it went exactly how you expected.
Yeah.
Because she cannot speak off the cuff. She's like,
I know.
She's stupid.
She can barely speak on prompter.
She's and it's like and so they're going to try to keep her as much from that, but she still has to debate Donald Trump.
Does she? Mm-hmm. Is that mandatory?
Yeah.
Because she's calling for the debates, and it sounds like Trump right now is saying, no, it's like, you debate her, dude.
Yeah.
But here's the thing with Trump. He can't resort to 5-year-old Trump during the debate.
No. And I think he's going to take the same game plan that he had with Biden.
Which time?
The first time with Biden, this last time that he debated, that Biden just absolutely imploded.
Oh, just recently.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
He's going to take the same thing with
And
Harris.
that was a different Trump.
I think he's not going to say much, and he's going to be very in control.
Yes.
And he's going to let them. And I think that's what the Democrats are worried about.
That's what he should have done his first debate with Biden when he lost in 2020.
Yeah.
That's why he lost.
Yeah.
Because he started calling names and he started looking like a 5-year-old. Yeah. Just let Biden just bury himself. That's all you got to do. Same with Kamala. Because I think she is more ignorant than Biden. Biden's old.
But with Trump, it's going to have to be such a landslide where they cannot rig the election.
Yeah.
Like they did in 2020.
Do you think they did?
Oh, totally.
Do you think that?
Oh, yeah.
Biden's
they
in?
Just, I don't know if you just heard in Arizona, they discovered that
recently?
Yeah, just like the last week or so, they just discovered that 500,000 votes or something, they totally changed flipped the election towards the governor and the senator.
How are they discovering this? Are they digging a hole and they're like, hey, look,
Arizona's been
thousands
fighting
of
it
votes.
like crazy. They've been fighting it like crazy, and because people knew something wasn't up there. And so even at the last elections, they've had problems with these voting machines. And so it's like...
Because you got to admit, I don't care. I say this all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not a conspiracy guy at all. But when all those machines shut down at the same time, you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
When has that ever happened in human history? And then they come back on. It's like, oh, Biden's in the lead.
Yeah, I know.
Wait, what?
When every conspiracy theory comes true over the last 4 years, you're like, okay, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just a realist.
Right. Well, because at that point, they become no longer conspiracy theories, right?
Yeah. I mean, it scares me because she was a horrible DA in San Francisco.
Oh, she's horrible at everything.
She was a horrible attorney general for the state of California.
Right.
You know?
Right.
As a VP, 92% of her staff quit.
Yeah.
She's horrible to work for.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And I don't think she's not going to be able to be controlled like Biden.
Right. Which that's the one thing they like about him.
And she's the most liberal senator
that
has ever been a senator.
Right. So what do you think are the chances of her becoming president?
Well,
taking out election fraud.
I still think it's pretty likely.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, why would so many people, you think? Is it because they hate Trump so much?
I don't think it has anything to do with Trump. I think it's just the fact is that it's power hungry. They want to remain in power.
Who does?
The Democrats.
Okay, but I'm just talking about the average voter.
They will take anybody, but people vote along party lines.
Okay.
And it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's probable that Trump will have an absolute landslide. I don't believe any polls that are coming out right now.
Okay.
I don't believe any of that.
Yeah,
stuff.
it's too early for that because Kamala's been in for a week and a half now.
No.
Give me a couple months and then we'll see where they're at.
I think this was planned all along.
Okay. I knew they were going to get Biden out of there.
Yeah.
I just didn't think they'd put her in.
Yeah.
I had my bets on someone like Newsom.
Oh, Newsom,
or somebody like that.
Newsom's even more hated than Kamala.
Yeah, you think so?
Oh yeah, he thinks he's going to be president, but it's like, no. People hate California.
Yeah,
I can tell you right now, people hate California more than they hate Trump.
Wow, even people that live here?
No, I'm just talking about the rest of the country.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like, I mean, and Kamala isn't so much associated with California because she was a senator, but people see Gavin Newsom and what's happened in California, and they're like, no.
It's all his
fault. He got trounced by Ron DeSantis last year.
Oh, totally.
Just trounced.
I love Ron DeSantis, dude. He's the man. Yeah. I want him in there.
I just don't know. I don't know who ran. I don't know who ran his campaign.
Yeah, wasn't good.
I just don't know who ran his campaign.
Yeah, he'll be back. Yeah, especially if we have 4 years of Kamala, God forbid. But
he's going to be. Yeah, I think he turns out for the governor pretty soon. So
yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, he's awesome over there. So what's your prediction, man?
We're in God's hands.
I want to hear your prediction. What do you think? Come November, who are we going to have as president?
I still think Trump will win.
Okay.
But I would not be surprised if she wins.
I sure hope you're right. That's all I'll say about that, man, because I'm with you. I cannot think of a worse out. And it's funny. Here's the thing, though, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm realizing that I myself feel like I am the people in 2016 when Trump was potentially getting elected. I mean, they were like screaming in the streets. They were losing. I'm like, this is the worst thing to ever happen to our country ever. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, as much as I made fun of those people, I'm looking at Kamala going, this is kind of me if she gets in office.
They're going to go make a meme out of me.
Yeah, me in the street going, no! Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think I would ever resort to that, but it's crazy, man. So
I think we should have fun and just make our own memes just being stupid.
We should.
That would be.
Yeah, maybe we'll get on Babylon Beat.
Yes.
All right, man. That's it.
Awesome.
That was fun.
That was fun.
Thank you.
It flowed a lot.
That was
a lot more freely than I expected.
Yes. Usually does.
Thanks again for checking out this podcast, and please tell all of your friends about it. Don't let those shadow banning savages win the battle. Also, I would love to hear your feedback. You can contact me at whycan'twetalabout at proton.me. Make sure that you subscribe so that you'll be notified whenever new episodes are released. Thanks.